What a wicked thing to say.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Free Speech Friday. Thank you for being here. We know you have many choices to make every day, and we are always so very grateful that you spend some time with us. So thank you. Is there a sexier song? I don't know. Anyway, good to see y'all. Thanks for being here. You know the drill. Tapping is clapping, liking is loving, sharing is caring. Please consider joining our team. If it's a gifting goal today, please consider that. Also, we are crowdfunded. You want to support the channel, please consider doing so at Factsstillmatter, at Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. A reminder that you'll find the link to the Facts HQ, which is in the link tree that's in my bio. That'll take you to the store. There's also show replays. There's all kinds of tidbits there. There's news sources, news links. A lot of the things that we discuss there here end up there. Also in our Discord, please consider joining there. And by the way, a whole bunch of new merch in the merch store too, including Listen, Turn the Volume Up, Traitors to the Patriarchy, I Dissent, I Am Radical, a whole bunch of cool stuff. Go check it out. It is the giving season. So again, thank you all for being here. We really, really appreciate you. Just as a general reminder, in the link tree that's in my bio, you'll find a whole bunch of resources to not only the things that we discuss here, but just mutual aid programs, all kinds of stuff, how voter activism pushes and all that kind of stuff. And plus there's links to other creators programs that we support here, Crow and his the Proletariat and his Lighthouse program. You can find a link to that. At the end of the day, though, join the Discord because be part of our community. We appreciate it and we appreciate you. So thank you. Okay, crazy show yesterday. You know, there's still more information that's coming out. So today, gonna continue to talk about information connected to what I would see is the largest scandal in domestic political history, if not, globally, just because of how many people it touches, just because of how many people are involved, just because of the blatant cover-up. The more time that's passed, the more information that we obviously have. I should say the more time has passed, the more information has come out. And I want to talk about how this information is becoming available. So yes, the House Oversight Committee has been working. It's interesting that a lot of the information that's been coming out has come out because of subpoenas issued by the House Oversight Committee, which is great. That's just one part of it, though. We've got reporting on, we're going to hear from Allison Gill. There was a reference yesterday somebody had made to Allison Gill. Allison Gill is part of the Midas Touch network, and she's got some more information about how much deeper this goes. So think about what we've learned over the last 24 to 48 hours, or just in general, right? That's because of information that we've gotten from the Epstein estate through subpoenas, through the Oversight Committee. They're doing their job, coming out from both, Republicans and Democrats. Although the Republicans did a little bit of shady pool yesterday because they got the information. They knew the name of the person, of the victim, allegedly, and they let Virginia Giuffre's name go public while clamoring to keep names private. So they're still trying to avert your eyes because Virginia Giuffre is one of the people that had said she didn't see anything that Trump did, either to her or to anybody else. And then the Democrats are the ones that redacted it. So again, it's just more shady bullshit. Long story short, think of how bad it is what we saw yesterday, and imagine how much deeper it goes, which then is the reason that we want the discharge petition that Mike Johnson's been lying about. How bad that must be. That's what the DOJ is holding on to. That's what the DOJ has been lying about. And that's where all this clamoring comes from. I want people to think about, we're going to talk about Bubba in just a minute. I've got some opinions on that are wild, in case you haven't heard, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. The reason I think this is so interesting is because I'm going to talk a little bit today about how, the bigger picture, right? Everybody, please keep tapping and sharing, please. Thank you guys very, very much. Appreciate y'all. Again, it's Free Speech Friday, so I'd like to hear from you over the course of the day, as always. Initially, Mike Johnson was slow walking the vote. We know, right? We know that the attempt by the Speaker of the House to delay this vote as long as possible, the inevitable. And I think their strategy has backfired because of what's happened in the meantime. Initially, it was, let's just delay this and, we'll keep the party together, so to speak. But more and more information has come out that, again, like we just discussed, as horrible as what we've seen so far is, it's likely significantly worse, because why would the DOJ continue to conceal it? So we're going to continue to unpack some of the lies. There's this famous claim that the president has made that I hadn't spoken to JE in 15 years. So from roughly 2004, when the alleged relationship ended, until 2019, when Jeffrey Epstein apparently took his own life. Well, we've got contradictions in that. Numerous contradictions, in fact. Like many contradictions that they actually, not only did they speak, but they were in the same rooms together. So they spoke, they saw each other, just a whole variety of things. So what that's kind of led to now is this, and I've been talking about this for a while, this jailbreak, right? This whole jailbreak of as many as 50, 60, 70 members of Congress, the Republican members of Congress, that are going to vote for this thing. More and more names. There were some names that came public yesterday. Well, we don't know if specifically Fairy Dust, if they had Thanksgiving dinner together, and I'll break that down for you just a second from what I've read, but seems like they were certainly in the same space. Anyway, we'll get to that in just a minute. I want you to keep this number in mind, 290. 290 is a big number because 290 would be 2/3 of the House, okay? So think about this scenario. And I was kind of sort of doing the math last night because the discharge petition, once it's signed, has to go to the Senate. It's going to require 60 votes. In my opinion, another reason why Republicans did not want to blow up the filibuster, because it's a piece of legislation, ultimately is what this is. And it's going to require 60 votes. So I think it's another reason why the Republicans did not want to blow up the filibuster. Now, that's strictly my opinion. I'll go on the record as saying that is strictly my opinion. But doesn't it make sense? As we've discussed many times, the lengths to which Republican leadership in the House and Senate and members of Congress are going to try to protect predators. In particular, one particular predator. Now, the Republicans are going to say they're trying to single out Trump and whatever else. Okay, I think it's clear that nobody gives a shit. Well, we all care who's on the list. We don't give a shit who goes down because of it. But I think it's another one of those reasons potentially why they didn't blow up the filibuster. I mean, there's legislative reasons for sure, but it makes sense, right? Because they know that this is likely, that they know this is going to pass the House. So back to the 290 number. So the 290 number is a 2/3 majority, which makes it veto proof. So imagine this scenario, if you will, right? 290 members of the House sign on to this thing. That's a lot of pressure on the Senate. Because what that would mean is that, listen, overwhelming majority, 2/3 of members of the House believe that this is important, that we get this information public, because the DOJ has been holding out. So what does the Senate then have to do? So then the Senate is on blast. So I did a little bit of research, and this is I'm gonna sort of talk about this in a couple of different ways. There are 3 Republican senators that are retiring. Mitch McConnell, Tom Tillis, Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, Tom Tillis, North Carolina, and Joni Ernst. Joni Ernst's retirement, I think, was a bit unexpected just because, and she had that whole Medicaid, everybody dies, that whole bullshit statement that she gave about giving her vote to basically to push the big, beautiful piece of shit, crappy ass, life-threatening bill across the finish line. Those 3 senators are retiring. So those are 3 names that we could watch out of the gate. They've got no vested interest in this anymore, right? So if they don't, what happens? So then you need 13 total, because there's 47 Democrats, assuming all 47 Democrats, fucking John Fetterman, who the fuck knows at this point, 47 Democrats to get to 60, you need 13 Republicans, right? That's the magic number, 60. So if the 290 House members or more vote for this, and who knows what that number could be. So you need 75 Republicans to sign on to this. It seems like there's this jailbreak momentum. Think about people that are in swing districts, congressional districts that are blue, congressional districts that they may have won, but Kamala Harris might have carried in the presidential election, or where the margins are so narrow. And we're going to talk about how the whole Texas redistricting thing is blown up in their face, like big time. We'll talk about that in just a minute. So that's the number, 290. Okay, so 290, it then goes to the Senate. Imagine, if you will, the Senate then passes it with 60 votes. President vetoes, it's veto proof, because the House is like, sorry, we're overriding your veto. I think that's logical, to be honest. And then that kind of then spins into the 25th Amendment, which we're going to talk about, because it's similar. You need similar math. So I think the administration, J.D. Vance in particular, is going to be keeping his eyes on this. And I bring up J.D. because J.D. is trying to distance himself a bit. He went on Hannity last night, talked about how Americans are feeling the cost of increased prices, contradicting the president, things like that, while at the same time glazing him. J.D. Vance is not liked by MAGA. Nobody likes J.D. Vance. His obvious, except maybe for Erica Kirk. That's a different conversation, but he's not very well respected and or liked. Yeah, we're going to talk about Megyn Kelly. Don't worry. I've got some additional sound. We're going to cover that in just a minute. So I want people to keep in mind. So 290 is the number. Remember that number, 290. That's the number in the House that becomes veto proof. So if you know how the government works from a civics perspective, the president has the power of the veto, but a House 2/3 majority can override the veto. It's as simple as that. That's how it works. So if that number gets to 290, hang on a second. Goodbye, my love. Be safe, be kind, be gentle. Have a good day. Drive safe, okay? Let me know what you're doing later. Bye. Always a girl dad. Okay, so that's the number, 290, right? If we get to that number, then the Senate's going to have a lot of splaining to do. I don't know how they can vote against it. I'm not saying they won't. Again, I'm not saying they won't, but it would be obvious that they're part of the cover-up. And then we're also going to talk about the 25th, right? and how ugly that whole process is going to be. Thank you guys. That's pretty sweet. I appreciate y'all. Okay. All right. Let me address the Megyn Kelly thing, and then we're going to get back into this whole debate because there's more information that's come out since yesterday. There's some things that are graphic. I did the best I could to kind of navigate through yesterday. It's a bit more graphic today because there's more things that are coming out. There are things I think that, the danger that we have, because we're all subjected to confirmation bias, and we're all influenced by our bias. Now, obviously, the information that came out yesterday is incredibly damning, but there's no through line directly implicating. You can certainly interpret what you saw and what we read in statements that are made. Any logical person would say, oh yeah, here it is. Like as we discussed yesterday, our friends on the right, the see no, hear no, speak no, even if there was a 4K HD video of crimes against kids, it wouldn't be enough. So let's discuss Megyn Kelly a little bit. I was just talking about this with with the mods about how the spin from the right, she is sort of taking the lead. And if you heard this is pretty disgusting. And I'll play the sound first, then I'm going to play some sound from her a few years ago and how far they have fallen, so to speak. So this is Megyn Kelly. If you haven't heard this, again, this is so disturbing. Okay, here we go.
I've said this before, but just as a reminder, I do know somebody very, very close to this case who is in a position to know virtually everything. Not everything, but virtually everything. And this person has told me from the start, years and years ago, that Jeffrey Epstein, in this person's view, was not a pedophile. This is this person's view, who was there for a lot of this.
F1, please.
But that he was into the barely legal type. Like he liked 15-year-old girls. And I realize this is disgusting. I'm definitely not trying to make an excuse for this. I'm just giving you facts. That he wasn't into like 8-year-olds, but he liked the very young teen types that could pass for even younger than they were, but would look legal to a passerby. And that is what I believed, and that was what I reliably was told for many years. And it wasn't until we heard from Pam Bondi that they had tens of thousands of videos of alleged, forgive me, they used to call it kiddie porn. Now they call it child sexual abuse material on his computer that for the first time I thought, oh, no, he was an actual pedophile. I mean, only a pedophile gets off on young children abuse videos. She's never clarified it. I don't know whether it's true. I have to be honest. I don't really trust Pam Bondi's word on the Epstein matters anymore. Yeah, so
just laughing.
I don't know what's true about him, but we have yet to see anybody come forward and say, I was I was under 10. I was under 14 when I first came within his purview. You can say that's a distinction without a difference.
No, it's not.
I think there is a difference. Yeah. There's a difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old. You know, it's just whatever.
Part of the Jesus. I can't even believe we're having to talk about this. You know what this is, right? This is an attempt to say that, 15-year-olds can look older. But in her argument, she even contradicts herself because she's like, he liked them a little bit older than 8 or 10 because that would be gross. But as long as they looked really young. So they're children in the eyes of the law, Megan, and you are a lawyer. You're a fucking lawyer. You know about the age of consent. In fact, we found some additional video. This was her interviewing a victim of crimes against. I'll just play it, and then I'm just going to play I'm going to play this part. And then it'll lead into what we just heard again, and then you can hear the contradiction. This is from initially. This is from 2018.
You feel a victim. To people who are going to be out there, because some are going to judge and say you were 15, you were 16, you were 17, you were a willing participant. Again, the legal age of consent in California is 18, so there's no consenting for a 14 or even a 17-year-old in these circumstances.
As for Epstein, I've said this before, but just as a reminder, I do know somebody very, very close to this case who is in a position to know virtually everything. Not everything, but virtually everything. And this person has told me...
So you heard the story. So 8 years ago, 7 years ago, she made it very clear, very, very clear that the age of consent, California, I don't even know. How do you come back from that statement? So this is the game now. They're trying to justify. This is how bad things obviously are. They're trying to justify this, and by saying that J.E.'s proclivities for young girls, they're not that young though. 15. 15. That's not that young. They looked older, but they're 15. I know, but they looked older. You can excuse that because they looked older. Oh, they looked older, so that justifies it. Let me be very, very clear, okay? I don't care how old you are. Grape is grape. Period. This is just, to me, just another way to just demean women coming from another woman, ironically enough. Again, there's the fine line here. I don't know what the fuck fine line you're talking about, Megan. Trying to justify the fact. I'm not going to say justify. I'm going to say that she's tried to clearly to draw lines of distinction between what J.E. liked and what she considered really gross. So here's the rest of the sound again.
From the start, years and years ago.
Trigger warnings.
That Jeffrey Epstein, in this person's view, was not a pedophile. This is this person's view, who was there for a lot of this, but that he was into the barely legal type. Like he liked 15-year-old girls. And I realize this is disgusting. I'm definitely not trying to make an excuse for this. I'm just giving you facts. That he wasn't into like 8-year-olds, but he liked the very young teen types that could pass for even younger than they were, but would look legal to a passerby. And That is what I believed, and that was what I reliably was told for many years. And it wasn't until we heard from Pam Bondi that they had tens of thousands of videos of alleged, forgive me, they used to call it kiddie porn. Now they call it child sexual abuse material on his computer, that for the first time I thought, oh, no, he was an actual pedophile. I mean, only a pedophile gets off on young children abuse videos. She's never clarified it. I don't know whether it's true. I have to be honest.
Okay. That's enough. This is what you're going to do now? You're right, Laney. It doesn't make it better. It makes it worse. To be honest, it makes it worse that you're even going down this particular road to try to, I'm not even sure what she's attempting to do. Defend it? This is what I mean when they know that it's much worse than what we have. Just to reiterate, the information that we have that's been coming out, it's like the emails, we know how dirty Donald is, all that kind of stuff that came out that we talked about, in earnest yesterday, came out because of the Oversight Committee. So, and in particular, the Democrats on the Oversight Committee. To James Comer's credit, he's the chairperson. He did subpoena this from the Epstein records, but that's what Mike Johnson's been. That's why Mike Johnson's been saying this entire thing is moot. The discharge petition, no, it's not moot, because the discharge petition goes right after the Department of Justice, because they're the ones that have been holding back this information. Now, I'm imagining that, my bitch boy Mike has probably got his hands on a lot of the information the DOJ has. So he's doing everything he possibly can to try to protect a predator. I want people to think about that for a second. MAGA in particular, because I see you chirping in here today. How do you justify this? I mean, again, I've been racking my brain. I haven't slept in 2 days just because this shit bothers me. And I've been trying to think about it, right? So I'll go into these spaces like we discuss, and they're trying to say that they're still jumping on the whole hoax bandwagon. Like this thing is a hoax. How is it a hoax? Every single time you've been told something, the truth comes out, and you're wrong again, and you've been lied to again, and you just sit there in your stench. It's just, what? So let's just kind of go back in time a little bit. I'll play the contradiction of Caroline and how many times that she has just tried to defend the fucking lie. I think I have it here. You can hear, this goes back over the course of the summer. So I'll give you the dates. I'll give you the timestamp.
Is truly a manufactured hoax by the Democrat Party. And why are the Democrats all of a sudden caring about this? It's because they are desperately trying to concoct a hoax to smear the president of the United States.
So what is the theory, since these documents came from the Epstein estate?
I did not say the documents are a hoax. I said the entire narrative surrounding Jeffrey Epstein right now that is absorbing many of the liberal cable channels on television is a hoax.
Can you clarify which part of the Epstein hoax is the hoax part?
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this, as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The president has been transparent. He has followed through on his promises to the American people, but he doesn't like to see Democrats and the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about.
Caroline's on script, for sure. They based their entire defense of this on it being a Democratic hoax. So Republicans on the Oversight Committee subpoenaing this information from the Epstein estate, are they part of the hoax too? Somebody said they wanted to hear it again. Okay, I'll take a quick break. I'll play it again for you.
And it just shows how this is truly a manufactured hoax by the Democrat Party. And why are the Democrats all of a sudden caring about this? It's because they are desperately trying to concoct a hoax to smear the president of the United States.
So what is the theory, since these documents came from the Epstein estate?
I did not say the documents are a hoax. I said the entire narrative surrounding Jeffrey Epstein right now that is absorbing many of the liberal cable channels on television is a hoax.
Can you clarify which part of the the Epstein hoax is the hoax part?
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. So the president has been transparent. He has followed through on his promises to the American people, but he doesn't like to see Democrats and the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about.
Well, it is the biggest story the American people care about across party lines. So the hoax argument is, from my perspective, that's done. you can't use the hoax argument anymore when Republicans, Chairperson Comer, is part of the issuing of subpoenas to the Epstein estate to get the information that we now currently have. You want to continue to hold on to that story? Good luck. Yeah, Democrats are the problem. Right, William? Cool. So they're stuck. And I just want people to understand that we've not seen anything yet, as far as I'm concerned. So 290 is the number. So Mike Johnson did everything he could to try to push that vote out. He's gone on the record saying he'll bring the vote to the floor next week of the House. I think Wednesday, because it would be 7 days. That's the length of time for the discharge petition, unless they want to try to jam that up a little bit more. So 290 is the number. And the House, and the White House knows. They know because they're going down the road of what that would look like from a process. So they're probably on the phone with senators right now, just like the pressure campaign that they tried to, intimidate Bobo and Nancy Mace by calling them, summoning them. Let's be real. It wasn't like, hey, come on by, let's talk about politics. No, it's like, get your ass to the White House. We're going to pressure you. We're going to intimidate you. We're going to go to the Situation Room. We're going to surround you. We're going to surround you with white men. And we're going to, and Pam Bondi. And we're going to pressure you to change your vote. What question am I avoiding? Host avoiding question? What question am I avoiding? Here we go. Let's start our day with some fun. No Town, Scotown. You're not going to come in the box, are you? Probably not. Okay. Anyway, how then do they spin their way out of this? And I don't think they can. I want to remind folks, too, that there's another thing in play here that I've been talking about for a while, the 25th Amendment. We'll get into that in a little bit. Last night, so part of the recent drama around this, the release of some of these files, is that Virginia Giuffre's name became public. It became public because of the Republicans on the Oversight Committee. The Democrats on the Oversight Committee redacted the name. So I'm going to play some sound because last night, somebody sent me this clip this morning. I think the mods had it in the mod chat. Thank you, guys. Jen Psaki had Virginia Giuffre's family on. And the interview is not very long, but it's worth it to play it in its entirety. So I'm going to play this for you, and we'll talk about it because this is kind of the point, that they're so desperate now that they want to cherry pick Virginia Giuffre's statements in the past about her not seeing Donald Trump commit crimes against children. As a reminder, children, okay? And how desperate they are. This is like the last thing that they're holding out hope for. This interview is, I've listened to it, you're right. It's pretty heartbreaking. But I think because, again, we made a commitment here to cover this story, we're going to cover it. And it ain't pretty. But this shit is just horrible, so we're going to expose the truth. So here's the interview, and I'll comment.
Documents the House Oversight Committee released for a little more than a day now. But Trump and the White House are already trying to discredit everything in this trove of documents. They're working overtime to do this. And they are trying to use the name of an Epstein survivor to get away with it. Yesterday, the very first email that the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released showed Epstein writing Ghislaine Maxwell to say that Trump was the, quote, dog that hasn't barked, and that a victim spent hours at Epstein's house with Trump. The Democrats on the committee redacted that victim's name, as they've tried to do with the names of all of the Epstein survivors, in part to allow them to tell their own stories on their own terms if they want to. But within an hour of the release, the Republican majority on the House Oversight Committee promptly outed the victim as Virginia Giuffre, apparently doing so just so they could point to past statements of Giuffre's in which she said she had never seen Trump do anything wrong. So again, they're outing an Epstein survivor.
Just to be clear, subpoena, information comes, they get it from the Epstein estate. Democrats redacted the name as they said they would do. That's included in the discharge petition, which is the right thing to do. Republicans then went public with it, the name of Virginia Giuffre. That's what happened here. Those are the facts. Okay?
For political gain.
Exactly.
And just to be clear, this was not a one-off. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt promptly did the same in a press release. And then at the White House press briefing yesterday, Leavitt had the gall to again invoke Giuffre's name to defend Trump without even learning how to pronounce it.
Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre.
It's Virginia Giuffre. Sorry, that's just incredibly insulting. But here's what she went on to say.
If you live in a Vermont zip code and...
Hold on. I do live in a Vermont zip code. Got to deal with the ads.
Ms. Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her.
Now, again, the reason Caroline Leavitt and House Republicans were invoking and have been invoking Virginia Giuffre's name is not to help tell her story.
Of course not.
Or to push for releasing more documents like her family wants.
Of course not.
But to try to cover Trump's butt.
Absolutely.
And it's not just the White House.
Think about it. Is there any other reason? There is absolutely no other reason. Even though, so again, Mike Johnson, numerous times, that the discharge petition is moot because the House Oversight Committee is doing their job. Somebody give me, so MAGA, defend this. What's the alternative explanation for this one? This information, Mike Johnson's argument all along has been, we need to protect the innocent. Let me see if I can find that clip. Hang on one second here. Just because I want to make sure that we're on the timeline here, that we're talking about the things that we should be talking about, which is protecting the innocent. I don't think here we go. This fucking nonsense. Based on what we know now, he's going to be asked these questions. He was asked this question day before yesterday, as the government was coming back to, as the House had gathered back in D.C.
All your Republicans to vote for this Massey Connell bill on the Epstein files next week. Put out all the files. Let the American public judge for themselves.
What I was opposed to is the reckless disregard that was used in drafting the discharge petition. And we've been over this many times, but it was not drafted in such a way that it would adequately protect innocent victims.
Really?
We have a responsibility to do that. There's as many as 1,000 women, by some estimates, of people who have been victimized because of the sex trafficking and Epstein and all these horrendous, heinous crimes, and we can't have them subjected to any further harm. So we wanted to make sure that they were properly, whose names were properly redacted out of the files.
Right.
But the discharge petition is not only reckless, it is also a totally moot point.
Really?
The Oversight Committee has been working, as you all know, around the clock, working on this. And you have some of the toughest members of Congress on the Republican and Democrat side who are working in bipartisan fashion to go through and release those files.
Right.
Why not?
So again, think about what you just heard, right? So we know from how this process came down. If the argument is you're doing everything you can to protect the names of those involved, the survivors, Mike, the girls at the time who were abused by your dear leader, then why did this happen, Mike? Then why did the Democrats have to go and then redact it? And then why did Caroline Leavitt go and mispronounce her name? And now you're trying to spin this? People are so fucking disgusting. Back to the story.
In Congress that are doing this.
Trump is all over the Epstein files, and I'm wondering if they're going to release those. Are you covering that tonight?
Not really, because the woman that apparently they're talking about is the one that said he was a gentleman and never did anything wrong.
There it is.
Again, co-opting the story of a young woman who many survivors credit with inspiring them to tell their own stories, who is no longer here with us to keep telling hers, all for their own political gain. Joining me now are Sky and Amanda Roberts. They are the brother and sister-in-law of the late Virginia.
This is heartbreaking, so trigger warnings. But I think it's necessary to play it because we need to hear the voices of survivors, even if it's posthumously.
Roberts Giuffre and advocates for justice in her memory. Whew, looking at your face is just going to make me cry too. But this is such an important story to talk about. Sky, as I just outlined yesterday, it's okay. Be however you want to feel in this moment. I think everybody is with you who's watching right now. Yesterday, after these emails were released, I felt such rage, and I think so many people did. And this is why I wanted to outline and tell the story. First, Republicans on the House Oversight Committee and then the White House afterwards confirmed Virginia's name as the identity of the individual whose name was redacted. I'm just going to repeat, there's a reason why individuals' names are redacted in these documents. There is a reason. And a lot of people out there, including Republicans, have said they want to protect the survivors' names. What was your reaction when you first saw that yesterday morning?
What another slap in the face from this administration. It was gut-wrenching. It made us angry. What disrespect. Our sister is an American hero. She and her testimony was the reason why they were even able to take these monsters down. And from the very beginning, all they have done is try to drag her name in the muck for redemption for our president. And it's just so disgraceful. They have had no regard for a family that is grieving a loss that they will never recover from. We will never recover from this loss. And there is a reason why names are redacted. Do you think because she's not here anymore that her family doesn't deserve protection, that her family doesn't deserve respect, that her legacy and her name doesn't deserve honor? And sure, she may not have had a personal experience with President Trump, but he is named in those files on multiple occasions. And nor are we here to sit here and accuse anyone of anything. What we are saying is if you are named under any circumstance, and it doesn't matter what party affiliation you are, you deserve to answer questions. You deserve to sit before the committee, before the American public, before the survivors, and tell them what you know. Tell them what you saw. And it is just beyond reprehensible of this White House, of the Republican Oversight Committee to do that, to violate her in that way and to violate us in that way.
See, what MAGA and defenders of predators, MP3Os, don't understand is the guts that it takes to do this. You have been dragged. Your family has suffered think about the tragedy that their family has gone through. And they're here having to defend the name of their deceased sister because of Republicans trying to protect the network of predators who got her. Remember, the Pussy Committee, of which Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were part of, as reported by Michael Wolff. I want just think about that. Okay? Yes, this has turned into a political issue, but it never should have been. It never should have been from the beginning. This is about fucking humanity. And the lengths to which Mike Johnson in particular has gone to try to defend this shit by saying, well, the Oversight Committee is doing all these things because they want to make sure because the discharge petition was reckless and haphazard. No. The discharge petition made it very clear, I'll read it to you, made it very clear that the names of anybody connected to these things who were survivors of this would have been redacted. It was the Republicans. It wasn't enough just to get the information. They could have just gotten the information and left it alone. But instead, one person of the thousands of potentially survivors in this case, one person who said she never saw Donald Trump do anything bad with anybody. That's the name they're going to go public with. And then Caroline Leavitt goes on the record saying, this proves he's innocent. And these people will fucking believe it.
I don't know, Sky, how you could add to the powerful statement that your wife just made, but what do you want people to understand about what it does to families? And there are so many other survivors out there. When the names of survivors, the names of people who have been victims of Jeffrey Epstein, of Ghislaine Maxwell, are released and put out there in the world like this.
Well, I think first I want to start with I don't think my sister or any survivor, excuse me, I'm very emotional tonight. I apologize.
You don't need to apologize.
But I don't think any survivor, including my sister, should be used as a political toy. These are sisters and mothers and daughters. Amanda mentioned we're grieving right now. I think the world is grieving a little bit for her because she's not here to speak for herself. And so it felt very disrespectful for them to unredact her name when she's not here to speak for herself. We're, of course, going to stand forward and we're going to continue to fight for her and all survivors out there, because I want to be very clear. If my sister was here today, she would be appalled by this administration. She would not refer to President Trump as a gentleman. He's not acknowledging survivors. Not once has he even acknowledged my sister in the sense of who she was as a hero. I mean, the reason we're even here today having this conversation, Jen, in which she should be sitting with you, not me, is because of her and so many brave survivors that came forward. And now these files are being released. And so I just think it's time to put a little respect on her name and all survivors' names and treat them as heroes. Mm-hmm. And just stop the nonsense, this political BS bullshit that just keeps coming out of his mouth and the administration's mouth. It needs to stop. Sorry.
It's okay. You can feel and say whatever you want to say. Just to be clear, I think people are feeling what you're feeling right now on your behalf. You know, part of what is so enraging here, there's so many things, is that she isn't here to tell her own story. You're the closest there is to tell her story. And one of this email that I've talked about is getting a lot of attention because it's talking about how Epstein says your sister spent hours in his house with Donald Trump. There's been so much speculation about what that means. How do you read it? Or is there anything you want people to understand of what you think it means?
I think it means there are still so many layers to uncover. I think there are so many things that we just don't know. She's never had a personal conversation to us about an interaction like that. That doesn't mean that it's true or not true. And I think that this just further proves how deep of an investigation is warranted here. This is why those files need to be released. This is why the paper trails need to be followed. Okay, we have to look into this deeper and we have to look at accountability here. I think that's what Virginia would want today. And she wants protection for herself, for her family, who she has left behind, and for every single survivor who consistently puts themselves at risk and entrusting their government. Republican and Democrats, we are trusting you to do the right thing by us and protect survivors. No more shameful games. No more political party games. This is not a political issue. And I'm going to tell you this. Survivors don't care. And they didn't care when they were being abused, whether someone was a Republican or a Democrat. They don't care. We don't care. The American public do not care which party you fall on. If you are implicated in these heinous acts, it must come to light. We must do better. Our world is demanding that of us.
I'll just add, having worked in Democratic politics for 20 years, if Democrats in there, Democrats who are prominent, they should be named and outed too. This is about justice for survivors. Right. It has nothing to do with people's party affiliation. Let me ask you, because I think part of it is...
I just want to address that. we've been saying from day one, I don't give a fuck who's in it. I don't care. And there is a clear distinction right now of what the Republican Party in particular is doing. They are protecting Donald Trump at all cost. That's what they are doing. Every Democrat in the House has signed on to this petition. 4 Republicans have signed on to the petition to get it across the finish line. It should be 435 to 0. There should be absolutely no question. Every single Republican in the House and every single Republican in the Senate should vote for full disclosure. Again, keep this in mind. The Oversight Committee, okay, of which James Comer is the chairperson, have done work and have got information from the Epstein estate. The discharge petition goes after the DOJ. Those are 2 separate things. Mike Johnson has been attempting to paint the picture that the Oversight Committee is doing the work, that, in his words, the discharge petition is moot. No, it's not. Because the discharge petition, again, goes directly after the DOJ. That's where the cover-up is. The subpoenas from the Oversight Committee has gotten us to this point, has gotten a lot of information, and good work for them on the subpoena side. And we're going to talk about Ro Khanna in just a minute. She's right. Nobody gives a fuck. Much like we talk about from a healthcare debate, cancer doesn't give a fuck who you vote for. Crimes against children doesn't give a fuck who you vote for. Protecting predators and to the lengths to which they are going to do it is without question. This is why I always say that this is the biggest scandal in domestic politics in the United States political history, as far as I'm concerned. Scandal. I don't want to say political history. The biggest scandal that I've ever seen. And the right cannot ever stand on their family values again. Ever. Ever. They can never sit here and say that they care about kids. They can never, ever, ever again say that they care about, protecting the innocent. It's game over. Don't ever let them forget that in these conversations. Don't ever let them. Don't even engage with them. Don't even engage. Especially when you see these feeble, rage-baiting hosts on TikTok trying to blame this on Democrats. They're going to do what the fuck they're going to do. You guys know the truth. There's no coming back from this unless every single Republican, independent votes to see the information the DOJ has been holding. Everyone. Imagine this scenario. 435 members of the House. Everyone signs on. I doubt that's going to happen, but imagine that scenario. And then all 100 senators sign on. What does Donald Trump do? He will veto it. It will get denied. And then the DOJ will figure out something. It's unbelievable. I have said all along, friends, that there are a few things. I'm going to try to, because I'm a glass half full kind of guy, always have been. There are a few things that the last 10 years, as bad as they've been politically because of Trump and Trumpism in general, I think is exposed. The level of corruption that exists and the power of mostly white men, how they have around the world, and the mistreatment of women and girls. It's been exposed like perhaps it's never been exposed before. Excuse me. Survivors and victims have known all along it's existed, but maybe more people are paying attention now. Maybe more people are willing to see it and say it. Maybe more people are saying this is absolute fucking nonsense. This should not be political. Why has this become political? This is about girls, and in some cases we don't even know. Could be young boys as well. We don't even know. It's about their power. It's about them feeling that they're not accountable to anybody. It doesn't matter the industry you're in. It doesn't matter your sexual orientation, your persuasion, your race, your gender. I don't give a fuck. crimes against kids is the worst of the worst. And Megyn Kelly trying to say, well, you know, at least they weren't 8. We don't know how young they were. We know that Katie Johnson was 12. Where does that fit on your paradigm, Megyn?
What happens now? And there is, of course, this discharge petition, which you have both been out there working so hard to advocate for, among so many other things. There's going to be a vote next week. It sounds like many more Republicans, to your point, Amanda, I think, are coming out and saying, or saying privately, that they're going to support this. There is a huge, big pressure campaign from the White House to keep people from getting.
CJ, do you think we care? You put LOL at the end of it. Do you think we give a shit? Do you think we fucking care? Do you think anybody in here, the 2,000 people, gives a fuck if Bill Clinton's in trouble? Lock his ass up too. You guys have lost the plot. You sit in your little spaces and give each other in your fucking circle jerks and think, oh man, we got the libs now because of Clinton. We're like, fuck Clinton. Throw him in front of the fucking bus. Don't give a shit. Is he getting blowjobs from Trump now? We're going to get into that in case you haven't heard that story. Trump and Bubba. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. We don't care, CJ. We don't give a fuck. Why don't you rewrite your comment and say Trump's in big trouble? You won't though, will you? Because you're in the fucking cult too. We don't care. None of us care. We want crimes against children called out and have every single one of them involved. Due process, go through court, present your case. If found guilty, throw their fucking asses in jail. Period. Do you understand? Shouldn't be that hard.
On board. People have resisted that to date, but it's going to just amp up. Your voices are more powerful than their voices. What's the argument you want people to hear and understand about why it is so important, even if there are enough votes to pass this, that people who want to stand on the side of survivors, if they want to do that, they need to support this?
Exactly. Right.
Well, I think where you have a lot of momentum right now, I think that survivors' voices are truly being heard right now. I think all the work that my sister put in over the years and the truth that she told and the people that she took down, a prince is no longer a prince anymore. You mentioned that at the beginning of the show. She did real things, and this is not a hoax. All right. And you know what? The White House only wants it to not be a hoax when it's convenient for them. Right. They want to mention my sister's name and say, oh, so he's vindicated because my sister said so. Not true. Not true at all. She actually never said that once. She just said that you were nice to her. And, you know, and that doesn't mean that it didn't happen to somebody else. But for this petition in particular, we're very proud of all Democrats out there. Again, it's not a party issue, but every Democrat did sign on. And we have some really brave Republicans that stepped forward and said enough is enough.
Sky, I love you, bro, but are they brave for just saying that we should be exposing this bullshit? I get your point, but that's bravery? I'm sorry, that's bravery for signing on to a petition that would expose this bullshit? It's only brave because they get pressured by their leader. Under threat of what?
We're going to do this because it's the right thing to do. Because if I'm going to go home at night and look at my daughter in the face or my sister in the face, I'm going to sign this damn petition. I'm going to do it right now because it's the right thing to do. And I'm hoping more Republicans gain that same traction and can hear the voices of survivors. I couldn't tell you right now, I'll be the first one in Washington, D.C. tomorrow if you want to talk on the House floor or whatever floor you want to talk on or at a coffee shop. I don't care what Republican is. I will look you in the face. I will have that conversation with you and I will tell my sister's story, just like every survivor should tell their story, because this is a platform that we are constantly fighting for every single day. And it's time. It's time the American knows who these monsters truly are, because too many of them are still walking around free.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned Clinton, right? And I just want to address that briefly. Yes, Monica Lewinsky has even stated herself that it was a consensual relationship, but I don't buy that for a fucking minute. He was the president of the United States. This is about white men in particular feeling that they have power, unaccountable power over women. fuck the consent in that regard. Fuck that bullshit. Don't care. Throw his fucking ass under the fucking jail too. I don't give a shit. Don't fucking care. Thank you very much. So we need to be sure. I don't even want to, I'm not even sure how I want to say this, but just want to make sure I get this right. This should have never, ever been about politics. Never. This should never have ever been about politics. The people that are protecting the predators have attempted to make it about politics. This should be about the survivors and their voices, and survivors across all spectrums. Young boys, young girls, women, men, anybody who's been the victim, the victims of assaults like this should be believed. Period. It's the same argument that we have when we talk about, the priorities that we have in our nation, right? I've said this analogy before, and it applies here. People that are on the left believe in these kinds of things. There could be 100 people standing in front of us, and we'll feed everybody, because even if one doesn't qualify, same 100 people standing in front of people on the right, they won't feed any in case one doesn't qualify. Same argument here. The right's like, well, there have been women who've lied. I don't give a fuck. I believe women. Well, this person might go to, I don't give a fuck. I believe women. I believe survivors. If you can't start there, then you will find yourself in a position like Megyn Kelly's in, or Mike Johnson's in. Anything you can try to do to discredit survivors, you will do to protect the people who are abusing them. So, a couple things related to this story that came out yesterday. And again, because this is how desperate the right is to try to cast blame on somebody other than their own president. This is Tim Burchett. I'm going to let him play this sound. He calls himself Burchett, but this is what he had to say, because this is politics.
House floor, and I
hold on.
Just left the House floor, and I tried to do a UC unanimous consent of tried to get the Epstein files, get it straight to the floor, just to cut out all this nonsense, and and the Democrats blocked it, oddly enough. Now I hear they've had it for 4 years, and they obviously if there's something there about Trump, they would have released it, and now they're all let's get it out. Well, I just made a motion to bring it straight to the dadgum floor, and they blocked it.
Okay.
They blocked it. Okay. So this is politics. It has nothing to do with what's doing what's right. I mean, it's Washington, D.C. to a T. And again, they ought to be ashamed of themselves, but they're probably not. Thank y'all for sending me here.
Okay, remember that. Okay? He said UC would be unanimous consent. He said he attempted to bring a vote to get this through committee and get it out, and that the Democrats blocked that. Remember that, okay? Just remember that. Bitch boy. Hold on a second. Bitch boy. On the same topic. All right, here we go.
Tonight, as soon as the discharge petition received the 218th signature, we brought it up on unanimous consent, and that would, as you know, make it, we get it through the process immediately. The Democrats, shockingly, opposed it. So it was a staggering level of hypocrisy. I think some of them regretted it, because within about a half hour of that, there was a lot of confusion, and some of them claimed that they did not object, but they did, and that's what happened on the floor. So we're going to put that on the floor for a full vote next week as soon as we get back. In the meantime, I'll remind everybody, the Oversight Committee has been working around the clock, even through the government shutdown, for maximum transparency and full disclosure, as we have all been for since the very beginning. There's now, by my count, I think it's around 50,000 pages of documents that have been released. There was another big tranche that came out today, another 20,000 pages. They have combed through the Epstein estate files, which I'll remind everyone was not even anticipated in the discharge petition, and that's been a treasure.
It's because it wasn't asked for in the discharge petition, bitch boy.
Because included in that was Epstein's own personal financial ledgers, his travel logs, and his daily calendar, and all sorts of other things. So that's going to continue. The subpoenas are being complied with, and more are on the way.
So two things. First, let's get to the facts, shall we, about what Tim Burchett and Mike Johnson both claimed. Rep. Tim Burchett is raging at Democrats after he put forward his own motion to force an expedited vote on the release of the e-files. Burchett introduced a unanimous consent measure on Wednesday, claiming in a video posted on X that I just played for you that he wanted to, quote, cut out all the nonsense, dadgummit, and bring the issue to the floor. His move came as Rep. Adelita Grijalba was sworn in. She was the final signature on the discharge petition to force a vote in the House on compelling the Justice Department to make all documents tied to the investigation into the late disgraced financier public. The House is expected to vote next week, according to Johnson. Quote, I tried to make them release the files, and I was blocked by the Democrats. Burchett, who did not sign the petition, by the way, said of his push, this is all gamesmanship, folks. It's not about releasing the files. Johnson also launched a similar critique against Democrats. Quote, the Democrats shockingly opposed it, Johnson said. You heard the sound. It was a staggering level of hypocrisy. I think some of them regretted it because within about a half hour, there was a lot of confusion, and some of them claimed that they did not object, but they did, and that's what happened on the floor. However, let's get to the facts. Several outlets reported that Burchett's attempt to immediately consider the E-File Transparency Act was shot down by Republican Steve Womack, Republican from Alaska, who was the senior Republican in charge of the House floor at the time, who claimed that, quote, it is not a proper inquiry since it must be cleared by the bipartisan floor and committee leadership. Once Burchett spoke on the floor to request unanimous consent, Womack ruled his request to be out of order. I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the bill to require AG to release all documents and records in possession of the Department of Justice relating to Jeffrey Epstein and for other purposes, and ask for its immediate consideration in the House, Burchett said. Womack replied, quote, under guidelines consistently issued by successive speakers as recorded in Section 956 of the House Rules and Manual, the chair is constrained not to entertain that request unless it has been cleared by the bipartisan floor and committee leadership. Womack later went on to say that it is not a proper parliamentary inquiry to ask the chair to indicate which side of the aisle has failed under the speaker's guidelines to clear unanimous consent. A bona fide fucking, I'm sorry, was it not, did I say Alaska? Arkansas, my apologies. Arkansas, my apologies. Did you catch that? Did you guys, do you understand what happened? And by the way, unanimous consent would not be a full floor vote. So they fucking lied again. The Republican person who was in charge, so the way it works in the House, if the speaker's not there to arrange a session, they assign people who would then be the acting speaker of the House at that moment. He introduces what's called unanimous consent. That would basically mean that it wouldn't go on the record. There wouldn't be a full floor vote. But it was Republicans. It was the person who was the acting speaker at the time, Rep. Womack, Republican from Arkansas, said, you can't do this. It's not part of the rules. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, knows the fucking rules. This is how far this goes. And our mainstream media is doing you guys a disservice by not calling that shit out in real time. So we will. Independent journalists for the win. You want to support independent journalism? We have a live goal. Appreciate you all very, very much. At Factsstillmatter, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. It's so fucking despicable that you would even still want to try to blame this on the Democrats. Tim Burchett literally could have signed his name to the petition. You could have signed your name. You could have put your name on the. Why didn't you, Tim? Why is somebody not asking him that question? You know, you made all this kerfuffle, dadgummit, on X. Why didn't you just sign the discharge petition if you felt so, if you felt it was so important to you? Why not? Why didn't you do that? Why couldn't you bring yourself to the point where you could just put your fucking, feeble ass little signature on there? Why not? Why not? So again, it's a bold-faced fucking lie. He was shot down by his own party. What an embarrassment. It's what they do. This is what they do. Good morning, Blue Nurse. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
I hope I'm not interrupting your flow here, but I have a question. Because my thing is, when the Epstein, if they do get released, how do we know they're not changing them? How do we know that what we get is going to be the real thing? You know what I mean?
I do. So it's a very good question. And I'm going to address that in a little bit, because the language in the discharge petition, anything that gets redacted or unless they can provide evidence that this is not the original, has to be an explanation. So part of the discharge petition addresses exactly what you're discussing. Like if you're going to redact something, remove some, it's going to require an explanation, and that explanation has to come from Pam Bondi. So I hear you. I hear you. We certainly have to address that. But even then, it would just prove that the cover up is deeper than they thought.
So there's no chance that they can delete that. That's what I mean. Like, can they delete things out of there?
Sure, they absolutely can. But now they have to kind of. Now they're going to have to connect some dots because of the lies that have been told, lies that they themselves have been told, lies that Trump has been telling all along. Trump, by the way, on the record, I've got him on the record saying that he didn't have any contact with JE for 15 years, and we know that that's a lie based on the emails that came out yesterday. So I hear you, and I would not be surprised that they're going to attempt to do that, which is probably what they've been working on for all summer long. But it's not going to be as easy as they think.
Yeah,
we have to go into this with it. We have to go into this with a critical eye.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Bro. Have a good day.
Bye.
All right. Be safe. Okay. Jen, thank you so very much. I appreciate you, Jen, for your massive. Thank you very much, Jen. You didn't need to do that. That's very kind. And to Savage Mom and to Dana, thank you guys. Hearts in the chat for Jen. She just took out our live goal. That's incredibly kind of you. I appreciate you very, very much. You're amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Try to get back to the show. You're very sweet, Jen. I appreciate you very much. Okay. So where was I? All right, back on the program here. Somebody asked me if I have notes. Yes, I do. I do have notes to kind of keep me with the flow, but a lot of it is just stuff that I run through my brain, and then I say something, and then it reminds you of something else, and that reminds you of something else, and I don't necessarily have an outline per se, but I have a plan that goes into this. I can be squirrel, which is fine, but I've been told that people like the squirrel in me, so I'll keep the squirrel. I'll keep the squirrel squirreling, so to speak. Okay, so we know that Tim Burchett lied. We know that Mike Johnson lied. We know that Republicans who were in charge of the House at the time said, no, you can't do this. You're violating the rules. So go to fucking hell. So we now have momentum. And I'll remind you that 290 number, right? The 290 number, the vote, the 290 vote, the number being 290 would be 2/3 of the House, which would be veto proof. So I'm going to play a little bit more, a little bit more sound from Ro Khanna. I talked about him before. He is now part of I think a bigger push that's going to help get stuff across the finish line. And I think what he says here is relevant because we're going to hear more voices from survivors. You'll remember over the course of the summer, there were survivors that were gathered outside the Capitol, and the Trump administration literally tried to intimidate them by sending fighter jets and other aircraft literally over their heads, which is not something that happens. It was an obvious show of intimidation. So Ro Khanna's talking about the plan to hear from more survivors, and I think it's next week.
You have a press conference coming up next week. Can you tell us more about who might be appearing there, what you're hoping that will accomplish?
The press conference is going to have we're going to be hearing for the first time. I really want to center them, and I've been saying this to my colleagues. This is not about have not had justice for over a decade. They have not been heard. And this is about doing right by them, having the country here by them. My hope is it will get us a big vote in the House. And my hope is it'll make sure that the Senate takes this up and we actually get the release of I felt, I've been in Congress 9 years. I was telling Thomas Massey, I actually felt, wow, this is the time it makes a difference. Like we're actually making a difference in people's lives.
You have a press conference coming up next week. Can you tell us more about who might be appearing there, what you're hoping that will accomplish?
The press conference is going to have survivors, some who've spoken before, some who we're going to be hearing for the first time. I really want to center, and I've been saying this to my colleagues, this is not about getting Donald Trump. These women have not had justice for over a decade. They have not been heard. And this is about doing right by them, having the country here by them. My hope is it will get us a big vote in the House. And my hope is it'll make sure that the Senate takes this up and we actually get the release of these files. Because that would be actually, and I felt, I've been in Congress 9 years. I was telling Thomas Massey, I actually felt, wow, this is the time it makes a difference. Like we're actually making a difference in people's lives.
You have a press conference coming up next week. Can you tell us more about who might be appearing?
My apologies. Little hardware issue. My chair broke. Sorry about that. Anyway, okay, we're back. So next week. So Ro Khanna is on the Oversight Committee. He's been part of the, it's fine, I'll fix it. Because that's what I do these days. I just fix everything that breaks around here. He's on the Oversight Committee, and he's been very influential. Ro Khanna has been calling for Chuck Schumer to resign. Ro Khanna has been really upsetting the apple cart. Ro Khanna is the guy who reached across the aisle with Thomas Massey. They're the sponsors of this bill, of the discharge petition, and they're the ones that are going to get this thing across the finish line. So he's created this environment where survivors feel safe talking to him. And I'm glad he's doing the work. Am I muted? Can you not hear me? Can you not hear me? You guys can hear me, right? Sorry. Are you able to hear me? Yes? Did I unplug something? Okay, good. All right, sorry. All right. Speaking of Ro Khanna, I'm going to play some sound now from Lawrence O'Donnell and from The Last Word, because he speaks to what Ro Khanna was doing or has been doing in specifically as it relates to getting the Oversight Committee's documentation from the Epstein estate. Now, it's really, really important that we draw the line of distinction here. Actually, let me just read the text from to address our previous guest question. In House Res 581, which is, the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Let's see, Section 2. Section 2, subsection C. What's considered permitted? Permitted withholding contain personally identifiable information of victims or victims' personal and medical files and similar files, the disclosure of which would constitute a clearly unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. Redactions. Those are survivors' names. That's what it is that we're talking about, which Mike Johnson has said is not addressed in the discharge petition. That's a lie. I want everybody, if you learn one thing from today's show, keep this in mind. The Oversight Committee has been going after things like from the Epstein estate. That's been their focus. That's where they have targeted their subpoenas to get information there. The Oversight Committee has not addressed the DOJ. The discharge petition is directly going after the DOJ. The first sentence, release of documents relating to JE. In general, subset A, not later than 30 days after the date of enactment of this act, the Attorney General shall, subject to subsection B, make publicly available in a searchable and downloadable format all unclassified records, documents, communications, and investigative materials in the possession of the DOJ, including the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's offices that relate to JE, including all investigations, prosecutions, or custodial matters, Ghislaine Maxwell, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the difference. That's what Mike Johnson, or I should say, a.k.a. Bitch Boy, that's not what he's been telling you. He's been telling you that, oh, the Oversight Committee's got this covered. No, they don't. And we know that Pam Bondi has lied. And we know that Kash Patel has lied. And we know that Caroline Leavitt has lied. It's been one big fucking lie after another. So that is the distinction. All right. So people have been. I'm gonna play the sound from Lawrence O'Donnell because he addresses this and he also addresses J.D. Vance a bit. So we're going to talk about the 25th Amendment this morning a little because I think this entire thing is setting up for Donald Trump to either be. That's why the 290. Let me just kind of connect the dots here. That's why the 290 votes in the House are very, very important. Because if there's 290 votes to expose this information, to get this information out, then that would tell you that there's a lot of people that are just so done with this shit, that are so done with having to put their name in anything connected to Donald Trump. Similarly in the Senate. The way the 25th works, we'll get into that in just a minute, but I'm first going to play this sound from Lawrence because he was in Fuego last night.
If you're in a mood to thank someone, thank Amy Schuster.
And I'm going to fix my chair.
That is what I would have told our first guest tonight before he tweeted this at 9 a.m. The only reason these emails are out is Lawrence had the survivors' lawyers on, who gave me the tip to subpoena the estate. Why did Justice or the FBI not get and release these? Congressman Ro Khanna was booked tonight an appearance by attorney Brad Edwards, who revealed in our discussion that the way for Congress to obtain a massive trove of information about Jeffrey Epstein would be to subpoena Jeffrey Epstein's estate. Brad Edwards said that he knows the attorneys handling the Epstein estate, and he is sure that they would immediately comply with such a subpoena, and he was right. Brad Edwards was booked on this program that night by Amy Schuster, whose job is to find us the best lineup of guests possible for this program, and she does it every night without ever checking with me. I usually have no input on the guests. The words I say here are mine. What you hear from me on this program comes from me. I write the scripts, but that's just one piece of a program like this. Melissa Ryerson, for the last several years, has been deciding what the shape of this program should be. She has a much better command of the news landscape than I do every day, and she suggests what we should be covering, and she's always right. And only then do I apply my thinking to what we're going to present to you tonight, and eventually my writing of what we will present to you tonight. But having Brad Edwards, who is an attorney for hundreds of the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, join us on this program that night was Amy Schuster's idea, and telling us about sending a subpoena to the Epstein estate was Brad Edwards' idea, announced right here on this program. I didn't think that up. I never would have thought of that. And so, yes, Congress issued the subpoena that produced these emails because Brad Edwards suggested that they do that on this program, and Congressman Ro Khanna, who was the next guest on this program that night, immediately said, on television that night that he would take up that suggestion. And then he helped lead the charge for the subpoena issued by the House. A Republican-controlled House. A Democratic member of the House of Representatives who gets the idea of issuing a subpoena to the Epstein estate on this program and then brings that idea into a Republican House of Representatives and prevails and manages to persuade a House of Representatives controlled by Donald Trump's loyalists to do something that has the potential to not just crush Donald Trump as a politician, but depending on what else might be revealed in the Epstein files and as a result of this subpoena, maybe Donald Trump's presidency could come to an end. Maybe Donald Trump could become the second president to resign the presidency, the second Republican president to resign the presidency. How bad can this get for Donald Trump? We have no idea, but he does. Donald Trump knows exactly how bad it can get. Because
well, I disagree a little bit, Lawrence. I don't think Trump knows shit. I don't think he thinks this is bad. I think he will approach this like he's approached everything else in his life, that he'll just get away with it. The difference now, though, is that there are people, part of the machine, that he doesn't have control over that can get him out. And we'll talk about that when Lawrence is done. He's going to touch on Gerald Ford, Spiro Agnew, Richard Nixon, and how J.D. Vance comes into play, because we'll talk about that in a minute.
Because he knows everything about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. He knows everything that is or might be in the Epstein files or in the possession of the Epstein estate that could be damaging to him. He knows.
One of the great challenges in this world is knowing enough about it.
I agree. That is one of the great challenges.
And we see the way he's behaving about this. This might be the worst of it. What we've discovered in Jeffrey Epstein's emails today might just be the worst of it. And if it is, then Donald Trump can probably survive this. But Donald Trump himself is making an all-out effort to stop the release of the Epstein files after these emails were released today. Donald Trump has made the judgment that what remains hidden in the Epstein files must never be seen by anyone.
It's true.
And that is why he had Congresswoman Lauren Boebert in the White House today, hoping she would be convinced to take her name off of the discharge petition, which she had already signed in the House of Representatives.
Think about that again, right? Think about that again. They can't stop the train, oversight committee doing their work, getting this information, all the reporting. We're going to play Allison Gill from the Midas Touch in just a minute, because she talks about how so much worse this is, the information that the DOJ has, that they've been protecting, that they're using to try to, or they're blocking the release of it because they know how bad it is too. That just want people to understand what we're talking about here. And I've already seen the chirping. What about, we don't, again, I'll say it again. Everybody, 2,100 people in here, say it with me. We don't give a fuck who's in it. We don't care who's in it. We don't care. Lock them up. Don't give a shit. We don't fucking care. We don't care. Lock them all up. You can continue to chirp all you want to, MAGA. Go for it. We don't give a shit. Lock them all up. We don't care. Thank you.
She did not bend to that pressure. The discharge petition has been officially filed after getting its 218th signature today, when the newest member of the House of Representatives, Adelita Grijalva, in her first act as a member of the House, became the most important member of the House today, when she provided the 218th signature for that discharge petition, which will come to a vote possibly next week in the House of Representatives, that would force the release of the Epstein files. J.D. Vance is doing exactly what Gerald Ford did while the Nixon presidency was sinking and Richard Nixon was under increasing pressure over several months, that led to his resignation.
History doesn't always repeat, friends, but it certainly does rhyme.
Gerald Ford said nothing. When things were the darkest for President Richard Nixon, Vice President Gerald Ford said nothing. And when Richard Nixon resigned the presidency, Vice President Ford said, "Our long national nightmare is over." Tonight, J.D. Vance is silent. Tonight, J.D. Vance is Gerald Ford.
I would not say he's silent, but he's certainly not talking about this. He's trying to position himself differently, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Gerald Ford said nothing about Richard Nixon as Nixon sank deeper into scandal, as Nixon, on his way to impeachment, which he only avoided by resigning the presidency. Gerald Ford said nothing because Gerald Ford knew that when he eventually took over the presidency, he didn't want the stain of Nixon on him. And so J.D. Vance is silent tonight. But what is J.D. Vance supposed to say tonight?
Yeah.
When he reads an email written by Jeffrey Epstein during the Trump presidency in 2019, 6 months before Jeffrey Epstein's second arrest, saying, quote, "Of course he knew about the girls," meaning Donald Trump. Donald Trump has always denied any involvement in or knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking and raping of children. And the Washington Post is reporting
F1, please.
that one of Jeffrey Epstein's
Love the TikTok
emails
shop.
says Donald Trump never got a massage. Donald Trump wasn't involved, according to this email. The email written by Jeffrey Epstein says, Trump knew of it and came to my house many times during that period. Epstein wrote in an email to himself on February 1st, 2019, the Washington Post is reporting, several months before he was arrested on trafficking charges and killed.
Hang on, guys, real quick. I just got a flag. I'm just going to do this real quickly. I'll go back to the story in just a second. We have a PSA. I'm going to play it.
TikTok. It is our intention during these live broadcasts to only provide fact-based information to the absolute best of our ability. We strive to never spread misinformation or to platform those that do. Opinions of our guests or commenters are theirs and theirs alone and do not reflect those of the host. Hate speech is not allowed, and we are diligent about policing it. This platform is for educational purposes only. We now return you to our regularly scheduled pandemonium, already in progress.
Trump never got a massage. Donald Trump wasn't involved, according to this email. The email written by Jeffrey Epstein says, Trump knew of it and came to my house many times during that period. Epstein wrote in an email to himself on February 1st, 2019, the Washington Post is reporting, several months before he was arrested on trafficking charges and killed himself in jail, he never got a massage. So there's Jeffrey Epstein himself letting Donald Trump off the hook on that point. But Donald Trump's always insisted he never knew anything that Jeffrey Epstein was up to. Never knew anything possibly illegal that Jeffrey Epstein was up to. What is J.D. Vance or Donald Trump or any Trump defender supposed to say tonight when they read an email from Jeffrey Epstein after the first criminal investigation of Jeffrey Epstein in Florida, which led to Jeffrey Epstein pleading guilty, and Jeffrey Epstein writes an email to his criminal co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell in 2011 saying, quote, I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Jeffrey Epstein says that one of the young girls in the investigation, quote, spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I am 75% there. Donald Trump spent hours.
It's like getting tighter.
Jeffrey Epstein's house with one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims, according to Jeffrey Epstein, in a private communication with his criminal co-conspirator, whose response to this was, I have been thinking about that. The only way that Ghislaine Maxwell could have been thinking about that is that she knew what Jeffrey Epstein was talking about in every word of that email. That means she knew what it means that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. And Ghislaine Maxwell was not asked a single question about that email by Donald Trump's criminal defense lawyer, who now serves as Donald Trump's Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, who went to Florida to do a so-called interview with Ghislaine Maxwell.
And we're going to talk about that because Todd Blanche has got a lot of explaining to do. Again, independent journalism, we investigated that thread based on his questioning of her and why he didn't ask certain questions. Because, again, the DOJ has got more information. If this information exists in the Epstein estate, then the DOJ certainly has that and more. So Todd's got a lot of explaining to do.
What happens?
Sorry. Commercials.
Justice Department could have had that email and hundreds of other emails that we haven't seen yet that would be very specific about Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell that would have been legitimate and serious points of questioning for Ghislaine Maxwell, who's never, ever answered questions to any federal prosecutor or in her federal criminal trial about any of this. Donald Trump has obviously been living all year in fear of release of the Jeffrey Epstein files, and tonight that fear has to be more intense than ever. The fear that makes him snap and call Republicans very bad and stupid is an informed fear. It is not an irrational fear. It's an informed fear because Donald Trump knows exactly what his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein was. We don't. Donald Trump knows exactly how much direct exposure and familiarity he had with the people Jeffrey Epstein calls the girls.
While this has been playing, there's a statement from the president on True Social. I will get to that in just a moment.
In his email. We don't. We don't know that, but Donald Trump does. Donald Trump knows everything about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein that might be in the Epstein files. And knowing everything that Donald Trump himself knows about his relationship to Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump had a choice. He could have said, let it all come out. I have nothing to fear because I know everything about it and I know there's nothing to fear. Or knowing everything Donald Trump knows about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and after having been briefed about what the Epstein files say about him by his Justice Department, Donald Trump seems to have decided the Epstein files must never come out. That's the position he has chosen. And now the dog is barking at the very bad and stupid Republicans who support the release of the Epstein files. After the dog barked at those Republicans and called them bad and stupid at 2:03 p.m. today, 4 hours later, Politico reported senior Republicans.
Hey, Mr. Nice Guy, why do you support a predator? I'm just curious. You've gone all in. Your entire brand for the past 2+ years has been about how great Donald Trump is. Why do you support a predator? Why do you support a P3DO? Why are you not clamoring from the rooftops? Because you've said every hateful thing there is to say about members of the queer community. In your words, to defend children, to protect kids. So why aren't you the first in line? Why aren't you using your meager, feeble self to actually speak up for victims? Why is that? Are you on the list too? Probably.
Privately believe dozens of Republicans will vote for it, possibly 100 or more, according to 5 people granted anonymity to speak candidly. And so the mad, barking dog might be on his way to creating the biggest bipartisan landslide vote against Donald Trump the House of Representatives has ever seen. Tonight, instead of looking at the Epstein files that were created by the Justice Department's investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, we are looking at emails about Donald Trump written by Jeffrey Epstein that were in the possession of Jeffrey Epstein's estate after his death. And we have those emails tonight thanks to a thread of luck that began 112 days ago when Amy Schuster decided that the guests on this program that night should be attorney for Epstein survivors Brad Edwards, along with Congressman Ro Khanna and Andrew Weissman.
So that explains a lot now, doesn't it? What is this? Look at how pitiful. Look at how pitiful they are now. Somebody just muted him. The same person who just said the host likes to go into women's bathrooms. No, I don't. It's not something I do. It's funny that you would say that, though. Are you familiar with the term projection? Okay. Cover your drinks, please. Cover your drinks. All right. As I mentioned, yesterday there was this whole diatribe that the president put out trying to blame Republicans. So just to kind of go back in time a little bit here, I will do that for you. This is what the president had to say yesterday. Okay. Yes, the voice. I know you guys like it.
The Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done the shutdown and so many other subjects. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall into that trap. The Democrats cost our country $1.5 trillion with their recent antics of viciously closing our country, while at the same time putting it at risk. And they should pay a fair price. There should be no deflections to Epstein or anything else, and any Republican involved should be focused only on opening our country and fixing the massive damage caused by Democrats. He's angry. Super angry. And then he followed that up by saying, in other words, the Democrats are using the JE hoax to try and deflect from the massive failures, in particular, their most recent one, the shutdown.
And then this one is brand new, just 4 minutes ago.
The Democrats are doing everything in their withering power to push the Epstein hoax again, despite the DOJ releasing 50,000 pages of documents.
The DOJ has not released 50,000 pages of documents. The documents that we have come from the Oversight Committee due to subpoenas from said Oversight Committee. The DOJ has been holding back tons of fucking shit. So that right there is a lie. Cool.
DOJ releasing 50,000 pages of documents in order to deflect from all of their bad policies and losses, especially the shutdown embarrassment, where their party is in total disarray and has no idea what to do. Some weak Republicans have fallen into their clutches because they are soft and foolish. Epstein was a Democrat, and he's the Democrats' problem, not the Republicans' problem. Ask Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers about Epstein. They all know about him. Don't waste your time with Trump. I have a country to run.
Wow. He is freaking the fuck out. He has lost his fucking mind. Epstein was a Democrat. Donald, you used to be a Democrat too. As a reminder, you used to be a Democrat too. You used to be a pro-choice Democrat. You used to stand for universal health care. You used to advocate for more investment in social programs. You, Donnie, in fact, you yourself said you could never run for president as a Democrat because they wouldn't elect you, but you could get idiots to vote for you on the right. Sure enough, you did. You used to be a Democrat. You used to donate to Democratic campaigns, including Hillary's, by the way. You used to do that, Donnie. You, Donnie, you used to do that. So what point are you trying to make? It wasn't Democrats that called Jeffrey Epstein a great guy. That was you. It wasn't Jeffrey Epstein calling Democrats his closest friend for 10 years. That was you. So, nice try. I've been telling you guys for a long time that whether or not his voters continue to support him, because as we know, we discussed yesterday, 47% of 1,000 Republicans surveyed, 47% said that they would still support him, even if it was obviously connected to this, more so than we have. So that shows you who they are. But this is the end for him. I'm going to go on the record right now and say that this is the end for him. Just because there's nowhere to go. You can't expect people to focus on policy when every single day you're going to be asked about this. You're going to be asked about this corruption. Again, Donnie, you used to be a Democrat. You voted in Democratic primaries. You talked about how the economy always does better under Democrats. That was you. You did that. You did that. Again, his fucking bullshit. The Democrats are doing everything in their withering power to push the Epstein hoax again, despite the DOJ releasing 50,000 pages of documents. Again, the DOJ has not released 50,000 pages of documents. That's from the Oversight Committee. subpoenaed. It's how he got the emails. In order to deflect from all of their bad policies and losses, especially the shutdown embarrassment, where their party is in total disarray and has no idea what to do. Some weak Republicans have fallen into their clutches because they are soft and foolish. That's a tell. I'll tell you in a second what that means. Epstein was a Democrat. So were you. And he is the Democrats' problem. Okay, not the Republicans' problem. Okay, ask Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, and Larry Summers about Epstein. They know all about him. Don't waste your time with Trump. I have a country to run. There was emails yesterday that were uncovered that said Clinton never went to the island. Okay. It's a tell because he knows he has lost his base. He knows his base in Congress. He knows he's lost them. He knows that's an acknowledgement. Weak Republicans, that's an acknowledgement right there. He knows that he's lost them. And so in his mind, he expects fealty and unbridled loyalty. And he knows he's lost them. So he's now going to attempt to message to his base that they're all rhinos, that they don't matter. We don't need them. Here's the truth, sir. They could push your ass out of office at any point. At any point. And that's where this is going, in my opinion. Strictly my opinion. All right? Strictly my opinion. All right, friends, keep tapping. If you've not yet joined our team, please consider doing so by completing the various tasks up here. Thank you all. Again, thank you, Jen, for your massive contribution on Venmo to help us hit our daily goal. If you do want to support our channel, best way to do that is at Factsstillmatter, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. Thank you very much. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you an excerpt from Allison Gill. Allison Gill is a contributor to the Midas Touch. As I've been saying to you guys, there was reporting in advance of the massive document dump that we got from the Oversight Committee about how members of Congress and members of the DOJ, when they got their hands on some of this information, were so appalled by what they saw. Some of them had to step away. Okay? So that's why we know that what the DOJ is in possession of, that they've been hiding from the American people under a series of lies, how bad it is. So this is Allison Gill for the Midas Touch. I want to give her credit. She's great. I follow her on Substack, and she's. I'll put this in. I think we might have actually. It might be in the Discord. If not, I'll make sure it is.
This week, a reporter named David Schuster revealed that multiple Republican House members have heard from their contacts at the Department of Justice and the FBI that the Epstein files are actually far worse than previously thought. That they're worse than the alleged photos of Trump with nude girls that Michael Wolff reported on.
Trigger warnings.
The ones that Pam Bondi refused to deny.
I do have a Substack. Yes, I do have a Substack. It's at Factsstillmatter. I'm trying to, so I manage all the content myself, and I just don't have time these days to post more there. But I do have. Oh, by the way, for those of you who are following on Twitch today, thank you, Sam, seriously, for helping us get that done. Hearts in the chat for Sam, please. So we're streaming on Twitch, we're streaming on YouTube, and once I get through the play next weekend, I will be shifting my focus to get our platform even a little bit more robust. But I'm so freaking busy now, you guys. Not an excuse, just an explanation. So yes, I'm on Substack under @Factsstillmatter. You can find me there. So back to Allison Gill. Let me just start from the top.
This week, a reporter named David Schuster revealed that multiple Republican House members have heard from their contacts at the Department of Justice and the FBI that the Epstein files are actually far worse than previously thought.
Yes.
That they're worse than the alleged photos of Trump with nude girls that Michael Wolff reported on. The ones that Pam Bondi refused to deny the existence of during her congressional testimony. Far worse than that. And that at least 100 House Republicans are ready to vote yes on the release of the Epstein files, not the discharge petition.
See if you guys are paying attention. What's the number? What's the number I told you that they need in the House? Remember the number that I told you? You guys do. You know the number. And if they're talking about it's 100, then that puts us well over that magic number of 290. Exactly.
But the vote that would follow, they want to vote yes so that they can get out ahead of what's coming. I've spoken to multiple verified sources on the condition of anonymity that actually participated in the review of the Epstein files this past March. And I can confirm that what's in the files is much worse.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote it up this past July on Substack, and I reached out to my sources again after this news came out from David Schuster. I can also confirm through sources, again, who wish to remain anonymous for fear of retribution, that the files were accessible to multitudes of FBI and Department of Justice personnel because of how they were stored. There was a lack of permission control. Everyone had access in those units. Trump, Bondi, and Patel actually did this to themselves.
That part.
Through their carelessness with securing the files.
Think about that. Okay, and I'll get back to this, but think about that. It's just another example of how, your government, your administration, MAGA in particular, doesn't seem to have any fucking control over managing documents or whatever else, whether it be Signalgate, whether it be war plan leaks or whatever, or whatever. It's just one thing after another. So this, they made worse because of their incompetence. Shocker.
In fact, my sources say they're actually surprised that this hasn't gotten out to Congress sooner. What FBI and DOJ personnel saw was so devastating that some broke down while reviewing them, many having young children the same age as the victims, many being survivors of sexual assault themselves, all being kept in the building on lockdown, not allowed to leave, and forced to sift through mountains of evidence and testimony, photos and videos, all in the name of Kash Patel's pet project, part of which some believe was to politically target the survivors themselves. Many felt they had a duty to protect their coworkers from seeing the contents. And many believed they had the duty to protect the survivors from retribution. And with all the FBI and Department of Justice eyes on these unsecure files, it is no wonder Republicans in the House with contacts in both of these agencies are aware of the full scope of the content of the files and how many times Donald Trump appears in them. We know he is. Pam Bondi said he was. So did Kash Patel. So we'll discuss what I learned from people actually assigned to review the Epstein files and more on this episode of The Breakdown.
Her name is Allison Gill, and she does this series called The Breakdown. She's connected with the Midas Touch. I really like her, the way in which she reports on information. The Midas Touch network is a growing network, but she does this segment called The Breakdown. And again, it's posted in the general chat if you want to follow along. She covers a bunch of things, but this part in particular is the part that I want to focus on. Cool little graphics too. I want those graphics.
I'm Allison Gill. Welcome to The Breakdown. This past summer, a whistleblower reached out to Senator Durbin's office, prompting him to write a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi. That whistleblower had said that Bondi pressured the FBI to put over 1,000 personnel from the FBI's Information Management Division, the IMD, and from the FBI's Records and Information Dissemination Section, known as RIDS, on a project to review the 100,000 or so Epstein documents and to flag any mentions of Donald Trump. Now, at that point, I personally put out a call to anyone who had been tasked with reviewing the files to reach out to me anonymously. And I got multiple responses. After confirming their identities and verifying their employment using SF50s, these multiple anonymous sources confirmed what was in Senator Durbin's letter. I learned that the 100,000 documents represented over 300,000 pages of material, because many of the documents were multiple pages. The sources confirmed that they were put on 24 and sometimes 48-hour shifts. One source, who wishes to remain anonymous, told me they received an email on March 18th saying, effective immediately, no one is allowed to leave the building. I asked if that was normal and was told, no, it had never happened before. I confirmed that with other sources who have been there for decades. Locked in. I was also told that not only were the 1,000+ analysts told to find mentions of Donald Trump in the files, but they were told to log the occurrences by document number and page number in an Excel spreadsheet. Now, at first, there was a master file spreadsheet that everybody had edit access to, but that quickly changed when the powers that be realized that Excel doesn't play nice when you have at least 1,000 editors trying to make changes.
That's true.
So they divided the spreadsheets up. They also confirmed there was a decent amount of Trump mentions in that master file. No one was willing to hazard a guess as to how many, though, which says something in and of itself. But I think what stood out to me the most from my conversations this week and last summer with FBI personnel.
Really good point, Warner. An NDA, because that's the argument they're going to say, that these people who go on the record are violating their NDA. An NDA to commit a crime is moot. It doesn't apply. You know, you just can't. I got an NDA. Talk about all that fraud and corruption. Well, it's a crime. So an NDA is moot. Thanks for that, brother.
No, was the absolute carelessness and chaos of the operation.
Are you wearing? A lot of this information, and like I said, we'll finish this up. A lot of this information we've talked about before. Like we've talked about the 1,000 or so FBI employees that were pulled off of their jobs of, investigating, crimes against American citizens. They were forced and locked, and I didn't realize the level of detail, sequestered 24, 48-hour shifts, right? 24, 48-hour shifts. Did they get pizza? The whole thing comes down to me, the level to which the federal government, is going through to protect someone who was abusing girls. The federal government resources, your taxpayer dollars, who knows what the price tag was, your taxpayer dollars dedicated to protecting one person for crimes against children. Unreal.
But it did have some names around the office. It was referred to colloquially by names like the Epstein Project, for one. Many people called it the disaster, and also this bullshit.
And remember that Michael Wolff, through his interviews with J.E., determined that J.E. and Donald used to refer to themselves as the Pussy Committee, as they got girls for Prince Andrew, formerly Prince Andrew. Yeah, we reported on that yesterday. So it's nice that they have these little names for these things, right? Cool.
Now, as it turned out, no permissions were restricted to these files. So the Epstein files sat unprotected on a shared drive that could be accessed by the entire unit. And not just one unit, 4 units across 2 agencies, according to sources.
It's crazy.
Now, usually, I worked for the government. Usually, IT takes the time to add permission certificates to specific files for a group of specific people. So like if you wanted to go click on a file on a shared drive and you didn't have permission to view what was in there, it would deny you access. But this operation was so hastily thrown together that they skipped that step completely.
Of course they did.
Now, initially, it was just RIDS, the Records and Information Dissemination Section, that was reviewing the Epstein files. Those folks are actually trained, well-trained, on how to redact files properly, to protect people's privacy and PPI, to release things under the Freedom of Information Act.
FOIA.
But because Patel and Bondi wanted this faster, initially I'm told they wanted to wrap this up in 1 or 2 days back in March. It ended up going on for weeks because of their ineptitude. But because they wanted it fast, they put at least 1,000 people from IMD on it. But IMD didn't have the same Freedom of Information Act request training as RIDS. So what the Department of Justice did is they actually created training videos and disseminated them embedded in PowerPoint decks that were also stored on that shared drive without restricted permissions and on unclassified networks. Additionally, toward the end of the Epstein project, several Department of Justice lawyers were deployed to oversee the review within the FBI. That's according to two sources, again, who spoke on the condition of anonymity. There were also at least 2 units in the Department of Justice, Main Justice, with unrestricted access. And the instructions about what to find and flag changed on a daily and sometimes hourly basis. So these analysts would have to repeatedly start the review all over again. This is what made it go on for as long as it did. They kept changing their minds about what they wanted flagged and recorded and logged and marked for redaction. One analyst told me that, they spent more time waiting for new instructions sometimes than reviewing the files. The entire process was described to me in many ways. A lot of people called it a clusterfuck. One person said they were in full panic mode. They called it a disaster, especially for the privacy of the victims. That was one of the main concerns of the analysts that were reviewing these files. Kash Patel actually wanted the entirety of the files unredacted to himself, for himself. And many bristled at that and objected loudly because it was assumed he had an ulterior motive, that he wanted to reveal the identities of the victims to Trump allies. A smear tactic, right?
Unbelievable.
So with this many eyes on the Epstein files, it was inevitable that what was being seen would be spread around the office like wildfire. According to sources, there were people who had to stop, get up, walk around, take breaks, because the videos and photos they were seeing were absolutely gut-wrenching. One source witnessed an agent with young children nearly break down at what they were forced to review. The files were generically marked, so you actually didn't know.
You might hear reference what's referred to as CSAM, so CSAM, that'd be child sexual abuse material. That's how it's categorized now, okay?
What you were about to see when you open them. They'd go through this, then they would be told to stop. They would get all new instructions about what to flag, and they'd have to go back and start over again. But in their haste and carelessness, Patel and Bondi allowed access to the Epstein files to at least 1,000 people.
1,000 people.
At the Department of Justice and the FBI. Across, I can confirm through sources, at least 4 different units. So it's no wonder that Republican House reps with contacts in the FBI and the Department of Justice are familiar with what's in the files, given the number of eyes on them. And the people I spoke to confirm that what's in the files is, as many House Republicans fear, far worse than previously thought. One source described hours and hours of videos of yacht parties and photo shoots and massages of clearly underage models, countless pictures of men unknown to them. I asked. They said they didn't recognize many of them. With photos of them with nude underage girls and models. Videos, just hours and hours.
In the Win with Zin sweep.
Trigger warnings again, guys.
These reports also explain why House Speaker Mike Johnson refuses to swear in Adelita Grijalva. Because once that discharge petition moves, a vote is forced in 7 days. And David Schuster reports.
This is obviously a few days ago.
Reports that at least 100 Republicans want to vote yes to release because they're pals at the FBI and the Department of Justice who have seen these files because they were unrestricted to anyone in those units. The analyst spending days, 24, 48-hour shifts, forced to review and repeatedly start over. Those agents have told them what's in the files and that there's no hiding from what's in them once they come out. Now, at one point, a source said they were told to mark for redaction anything explicit, but that instruction was dropped when they realized that was an exercise in futility. Another source said they understood they were trying to protect the privacy of Trump's friends over the privacy of the survivors. A higher up said, quote, "We don't want to surprise anyone,"
God damn.
meaning the perpetrators, not the survivors. Quote, "This is apparently adding to the expectation that once Rep. Grijalva is sworn in and signs the Massey discharge petition, triggering a House vote 7 legislative days later, more than 100 plus Republicans will vote with all the Democrats to release the files to get in front of what's coming."
We're listening to Allison Gill. She's affiliated with the Midas Touch Network. She's also Mueller, she wrote on X. This series that she does as part of the Midas Touch Network is referred to as The Breakdown. It's her own podcast.
Unquote.
Just so we can hear that again. My apologies. Hold on.
Quote, "This is apparently adding to the expectation that once Rep. Grijalva is sworn in and signs the Massey discharge petition, triggering a House vote 7 legislative days later, more than 100 plus Republicans will vote with all the Democrats to release the files to get in front of what's coming," unquote. Had Patel and
this is in our general chat and the Discord, friends, if you want it, or you can just search for it. It's Allison Gill, The Breakdown, but you can find the link right in there.
Bondi kept the review close hold, or just at RIDS, which is a much smaller unit, there wouldn't be hundreds and hundreds of people with knowledge of what's in these files. They did this to themselves. And Mike Johnson refusing to swear in Grijalva is not the only thing they're using the shutdown for as an excuse to protect Trump and others in the files. Those training videos I mentioned, the ones that explain how to find and log mentions of Donald Trump specifically in the Epstein files, I filed a Freedom of Information Act request on behalf of MSW Media for those training videos, and I'm suing the Department of Justice to hand them over. But we're being told that because of the shutdown, FOIA is not available. And the courts are on hiatus from FOIA cases as well. This shutdown.
FOIA would be a Freedom of Information Act request that any of us can file as citizens.
Is about protecting Trump from the release of the Epstein files. And everything else, like SNAP and the Affordable Care Act subsidies and mass layoffs, are all casualties of this effort that people like Russ Vought are trying to exploit in order to protect pedophiles. And Mike Johnson is going to continue to do everything he can to protect Donald Trump. And this week, House Democrats want to interview the Andrew, formerly known as Prince, to get a better understanding of the scope of the Epstein files. This thing isn't just going to go away.
Nope. And we're not going to let it go away. I can promise you that.
You know, add to this that Mike Johnson and elected Republicans, people who have to get reelected, are reeling from Tuesday's shellacking in the 2025 elections. Not only is the House majority in massive jeopardy in 2026, but Democrats won so hard on Tuesday that people now believe the Senate might actually be in play. Democrats ran the board, and they ran the board on affordability and democracy. The affordability part is really hard for Republicans to lie about, but they're trying. Now Trump is on a mission to convince people to reject the evidence of their eyes and ears because prices are actually going down. And we're all crazy if we think otherwise. He's even convinced Walmart to take a Thanksgiving family meal deal, reduce it by 4 people, use cheaper brands so that he can say prices are going down.
Or energy costs.
I'm going to stop there because the rest of her podcast talks about some of the day-to-day that we discuss. But somebody said this, and I think it was Michelle, as hard as this is to hear, we've made a commitment here that we're going to continue to cover this story because it's just too important not to. Again, I really hope people can. I've tried to always be straight and be objective with you guys. Yeah, I have my opinions on things, but we can only report on what we know, right? What we know, what is absolutely fucking obvious to me is a cover-up. There's no way anybody can deny that. There's no way anybody can deny it. Now, the MAGA cult in particular, the see no, hear no, speak no crowd, will allow themselves to continue to believe that it's a Democratic hoax. You heard it. Thousands of FBI agents sequestered, locked in, literally locked behind doors for 48 hours. People themselves, those 1,000+ agents have relationships with members of Congress, shared what they saw with members of Congress, right? Information so disgusting and so despicable, they had to get up and leave and walk out. Now remember, all this to protect a predator. The entire argument from the right that we've heard for years as they go after the trans community, as they go after what, less than 10% or 5% of our population, if it's even that high, that members of the trans community are threats to children. They use their hatred and their vitriol, and they pass laws to diminish that community. Hateful rhetoric, assaults, absolute nonsense from elected officials on Capitol Hill, using the T-slur every chance they can get, and they call them the threat. And yet their party is doing everything they possibly can to try to protect a predator, one in particular that sits behind the Resolute desk. I don't need any more information. I don't need any more information to connect the dots. We've always known who he is. From the grab him by the pussy comments, to say I'd be dating a 10-year-old girl in 10 years, to walking in on Miss Teen USA contestants, to saying that he has sex in common with his daughter, 27 credible accusations of sexual assault, settlements out of court, lies about his affairs, cheats on his first wife with his second wife, cheats on his second wife with his third wife, cheats on his third wife while she's pregnant with a porn star. I don't need any more information. I don't. We've always known who he is. Always. We've always known who he is. I don't need any more information. Just a little bit more, just a little story that I think is, I'm not going to say, underreported, but as we get more and more information out, there's weird things that come out too. A viral email from J.E.'s brother mentions Trump blowing Bubba, sparking outrage online as Bubba is the nickname of former President Clinton. On Wednesday, October 12th, the House Oversight Committee released emails of it was November 12th, which exposed his connection with high-profile individuals more blatantly than ever. 20,000 pages of material on the convicted offenders starting as early as 2002 and spanning almost all of E's life after created a storm over several mentions of President Trump. Trump will also claim the emails were a hoax, and still does to this day. Repeatedly denied his association with Epstein after child trafficking charges came up against him, has been mentioned in emails sent and received by Epstein. One of those emails from Epstein's brother Mark has gone viral. In it, Mark speculates if Putin has a photo of Trump blowing Bubba. The mention of the president blowing Bubba has caused a storm on social media, as Bubba is the nickname of former President Clinton, who is also alleged to have been associated with Epstein. In the chain of emails between Jeffrey and Mark from March 2018, Mark makes a series of comments on the relationship between Jeff and Trump. In one of those emails dated March 21st, 2018, Mark asks his brother to ask Steve Bannon if Russian President Vladimir Putin has a photo of Trump blowing Bubba. It starts with an email from Mark asking Jeffrey about his health, to which Jeffrey replies that he is with Steve Bannon. In response, Mark writes, ask him if Putin has photos of Trump blowing Bubba. Who is Bubba? Is it Bill Clinton? Though the emails do not specify who Bubba refers to in this context, social media started speculating that it is Bill Clinton, given the former president's nickname is Bubba. And he also allegedly is associated with J.E. and his partner and associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. Hundreds of posts were made on social media speculating that Bubba is, in fact, Bill Clinton. Wait, what? What is happening here? My understanding is the reference to Bubba is Bill Clinton. That's a lot to digest, said one person on X. Notably, Clinton has been linked to J.E. through multiple flights on E's private jet, and although Epstein, again, in the email exchange, said that no, he never visited the island. Clinton has denied any wrongdoing, stating that he had no knowledge of Epstein's criminal activities. The quote that is going to be burned into our heads forever, friends, is this. Mark asks his brother to ask Steve Bannon if Russian President Vladimir Putin has a photo of, quote, Trump blowing Bubba. I mean, let's not go too far down that road because that could mean anything, right? But Mark Epstein, it's Jeffrey Epstein's brother. You guys remember when we spent 3 consecutive shows a few months back when we talked about all the money connected to Donald Trump in the 1980s, right? And how he got denied because of his corruption, because of his lies, because of his misrepresentation, because of his fraud that he built his empire on. He had to go to Russia for money. Do you remember that? We painted the entire picture. The layers and layers and layers and layers of corruption, and everybody wanted a stake, and everybody was saying that they could be the person, they could be the conduit. Michael Cohen got involved, Roger Stone got involved, all these people. And then it led right to the Kremlin. All the money, the oligarchs connected to the Russian government behind the banks in Russia are the ones that would give Trump money, right? I've been talking about this shit forever. This is not just about this scandal, as horrible as it is so much deeper. It is so much deeper because it involves so much. The corruption and the cover-up. I'm trying to think about the crimes are worse, obviously, but the cover-up connected to this is despicable. Remember the reporting of the PP tape? Remember there was all these conversations about that there was this PP tape existed, that Russia had information, compromising information on the Donald that include a PP tape, involved Russian prostitutes in a Moscow hotel during one of Trump's many visits to secure Trump Moscow, right? Remember that? Do you think that is so hard to believe? I don't. Of course, Trump's denied it because he's going to deny everything. You remember that? I'm not going to judge your kink. If that's your thing, go for it. Knock yourself out. But think about this, right? Think about what it is that we're talking about and who this may potentially involve. There's talks about Jeffrey Epstein being connected to Israeli intelligence, and he's got inroads in the Russian government, in the Russian mob, more importantly, and how the layers build. Remember? I've got, compromising information on people. Some of the initial emails that came out shared between Michael Wolf, this one in particular that kind of stand out to me. Where is it? This is from Michael Wolf, dated December the 16th, 2015. This is one of the first batches that we got sent directly to J.E. on his J.E. vacation Gmail. Again, dated December the 16th, 2015. I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Of course, it's possible that when asked, he'll say, Jeff's a great guy, which of course he did, and guy has gotten a raw deal. Of course he'd say that, and is a victim of political correctness. The story starts 2 days before. From Michael Wolff to J.E. I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, J.E., either on air or in scrum afterwards. To which J.E. responds, if we were to able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? Now, why would there be all these little threads that get pulled on? Right? All these little threads that get pulled on about all the stuff that I've got on you. This one line that stood out to me. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, if he says that, meaning that, well, obviously he has been, because if he says it, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. How do you want to interpret that? The way I would interpret that, again, my own opinion, is if he could win, you could save him by making sure that this information does not go public. Right? Again, strictly my opinion. I am not a conspiracy theorist. I am as far from a conspiracy theorist as you can possibly get, because I will rip apart shit to try to get to the truth. But how many blackmail, corruption, collusion, all these things add up if you look at them in their entirety. Goes back to J6. We always talked about him not wanting to get, the reason that he wanted to overthrow the government, his own government, was he could avoid prosecution for his crimes connected to the 2020 election. Now that we have all this information, it's more than that. The FBI has this information. They've got thousands of pages of documents that we know from reporting. Again, the reason why we have to have a free press. We've got all this shit. We've got it all. We've got everything. There's no more information that's needed. We need to be, and we will be, hearing from survivors as of next week, according to Ro Khanna. Their voices. Now, what will they say? I can't even begin, and I'm the wrong person to say this, but every time we hear a survivor speak, the amount of courage needed to do so is just something that most of us will never understand. Now, you add that to the courage that it takes in the day-to-day, when you add that to what these survivors are facing, the pressure that they're facing every day, including pressure for their lives. Katie Johnson dropped her case because her family was threatened. She was 13, and she was part of a menage a trois with Donald and J.E. with another girl who was 12. I've reported on that story. I'm not going to read it. It's too graphic. The things that they were told to do, demanded to do. This is how deep this is. This is how deep this is. And we all knew. We all knew what kind of person he was. We all knew. We all knew. But because he conditioned tens of millions of people for years to say that I'm your champion, I'm the one that's going to expose people like me, but I'm going to tell you it's everybody else. I'm going to tell you it's brown people. I'm going to tell you it's black people. I'm going to tell you it's queer people. It's the disabled. It's the infirmed. And most importantly, it's women. They're the problem. They're the ones that you should fear. Don't want to let women take charge. Don't want to give women the keys to the car. Don't want women to be in power. Because they'll go after men and they'll just make up stuff. Right. Right.
Oh, don't mind me.
Good morning. How are you?
Sorry, it's like, here I am.
It's okay. It's all good.
To bring some levity to this, and I thank some folks for the compliments last time, but I'm trying to bring levity. I just want to get a big vat of holy water and cleanse myself from all of this shit. Exorcism, like, get it out. It's filth. It's filth.
It is. It is.
It's utter filth. And it's not like, oh, we got Trump, we're going to own the MAGAs. No. Like, it's
not how I feel.
unfathomable. It's unfathomable. Right. It's, and I never thought in my world, and I'll let you get back. And Steve, thank you for airing all of this. Oh my God. Like, this shit is, I'm like floored. I never thought in my life I would be calling. I'm in Representative Summer Lee's district, and I met her October 18th. She's awesome. She's amazing. And I never thought I'd be calling her office or Marjorie Taylor Greene's office the same day and thanking them. And thanking them.
Interesting. That's interesting. Right. You'd never put that on your bingo card, would you?
I have a law firm calling me right now, and I'm not going to go into my story, but I have been abused by the state of Ohio and the cover up. This is a smaller scale right now, what I'm going through. The intimidation that you will get and everything when you speak up is real. And I'm afraid to speak up right now. I'm telling you guys, this is a real thing. And I can't even begin to fathom and imagine what those women went through as children. So you're even bringing this to light to all of us, as terrible as it is huge. And we're not here to own MAGA or anything. They need to really resolve their cognitive dissonance.
Agreed.
Like, seriously, because all the money that's been wasted with those FBI people, that's our money that's been wasted on this. Like this, I can't even, the magnitude is crazy. So, but okay, I don't want to overtalk. I usually do, but I'm not going to. But yeah, Jim Jordan, DeWine with the First Energy scandal. Oh my God, please. Oh my God. It's just, Ohio is Medina County, Ohio, you guys. Stay tuned because I will be speaking up with all my shit. I'm not going to do it now. This is your floor. I'm not going to do that. But it's, when you've been intimidated by law enforcement, it's not a joke. I've lost, and I'll just say this, I've lost $250,000 from my shit. I'm at risk of losing my home right now. So I'm not gonna.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, this is big. But thank you.
Sure.
Believe women.
Believe women.
And anybody who makes a false statement about, oh, I'm abused and you're not, that's not to be make light of. This is for real. So thank you guys so much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Gen X. I appreciate your friend.
Love
Hang
you
in
guys.
there.
Have a good weekend.
Love you too. See you later. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I messaged the mod chat last night. I'm like, should I do this today? And I was asked the question, like, why wouldn't you want to? Because this shit's heavy, right? And there's a fine line between covering this and overwhelming people. And I know it's reactionary, but we have to talk about it. And we can dedicate 4 hours a day to this, or 8 hours, or 20 hours a week. It's that important to me, right? It's that important to me, and I think it's necessary because this is how far people are going in our government, right? This is the issue here. It's how far people are going in the Republican Party right now to try to protect this, to try to protect predators. And there's people in the chat just like smiley emojis and hoping that the Trump administration fucking sues me. Go ahead, bring it the fuck on. Let's go to court. I'll figure it out. I'll go ahead, because that would require discovery. Go ahead, I don't give a fuck. President Trump, J.D. Vance, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, the entire crew. Fuck you. Fuck you. You can find me. Knock on my door. Go ahead. I don't fucking care. I don't care, because I care about the survivors in this case. I care that this cover-up is just unimaginable, the lengths to which they go, and that I will ask for my money back, and that I will ask for the receipts, and I will ask for taxpayers to get the money back from the corruption that you use to get FBI to do your dirty work and to do your bidding. Am I wrong? Bring it. Bring it on. I don't care. And for the people that support this movement, Gen X is right. I'm not up in here saying we told you so. We talk about it every day. They made that choice. This is not us. I'm not here to own MAGA. I'm just here to say this is what you support. This is what you've lined up with. These are the people that you feel are looking out for you. This is your America First movement. This is a group of people that are actively doing everything they can, using taxpayer dollars to defend predators. And I like what Allison said about the shutdown. Fucking absolutely fucking related. Absolutely related. No doubt about it that this was related to the protection and the cover-up. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Now, if you still want to point your energy and your anger at the 8 conservative, moderate Democrats in the Senate, I get that. Sure, go ahead. But this is bigger than all of that. This is bigger than all of that. Prices to pay, sure. But this is huge. And if the reporting is true, right, then more than 100 members of the House are gonna sign on to this, are gonna vote yes, then that puts pressure on the Senate like crazy. So I'm gonna shift gears a little bit because this is still related, and I want to talk about the 25th Amendment. Before I do that, JD Vance is doing the rounds, and I although I liked what Lawrence O'Donnell had said earlier about this is a Gerald Ford moment. I don't entirely agree because JD Vance is trying to position himself for the future. So he's got to be very careful about what he says because he's got aspirations to be president. And he's got big tech bro dollars behind him, Peter Thiel and others. So he's trying to find that line. He's not a very smart guy. He's just not. He's got no political chops whatsoever. He'll go whatever way the wind blows. And we've got evidence of that. But this one moment that I don't know if it's been talked about enough, and I'm curious as to see how MAGA is going to respond to this. On Veterans Day, 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, on Veterans Day, in the Oval Office, the President of the United States welcomed the current Syrian president, who was a former Al-Qaeda leader. MAGA, would you care to try to defend that? And then JD Vance attempts to make light of it. And here's the sound that I think is going to disgust you because it disgusted me. Hold on.
This video is circulating on social media, but the president met the president of Syria, al-Shara, in the Oval Office a couple of days ago, and he asked him, he's like, "Well, how many wives do you have?"
And they laugh.
and it's just like, oh, what an amazing question. Amazing comedic timing. There are layers to it. There's like a meta humor to it. It's just, anyway, but we got a lot of good humor in the cabinet.
Think about that. Think about that, right? So this is more about that whole kind of ha 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 ha. Why don't you walk up to a veteran who served in Iraq, who was under threat by Al-Qaeda forces every fucking day, and laugh in their face and find out what happens. So this is more of this. This is more of him. I'm not going to call it the retribution tour, but he sat down with Hannity last night.
What have you learned from President Trump? What have you learned from President Trump? I mean, he is a force of nature.
He is.
I've known him 30 years. What have you learned from him?
A few things. Number one, amazing at compartmentalizing things. When something is going on, there's always a crisis. The very best day in the West Wing, there's at least one crisis somewhere in the world that somebody is putting your desk. The president has an incredible ability to sort of say, okay, focus on that for 15 minutes and then go and focus on something totally different for 15 minutes. That's not naturally how I am. If something bad is going on, I tend to want to think about that thing and solve that. The president is incredible at that compartmentalization. I think that's one of the reasons why he can handle 10 different problems at once, is because he's able to troubleshoot and then move on to the next thing. Troubleshoot and move on to the next thing. The second thing that I've learned of this is just who he is and his natural instincts is he has better instincts about human beings than anybody that I've ever met.
Oh my God.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
Maybe it's not that Putin has a photo of Trump blowing Bubba. Maybe the picture is actually of JD blowing Trump. Maybe. I don't know. But that glaze was crazy. Here's a little bit more sound from that interview.
Sean, who are saying, I know that there are a lot of people out there, Sean, who are saying things are expensive. And we have to remember they're expensive because we inherited this terrible inflation crisis from the Biden administration. But you've already seen signs that things are getting better. The price of eggs has gone way down.
It's the only thing they can point to. So let's debunk that right now. Do you guys know why the price of eggs went up so high? You all the smartest chat on TikTok. Of course you know. There was a massive outbreak of bird flu. They had to I'm not sure the term, but they had to just kill millions of eggs because of a massive outbreak of bird flu, right? So that, of course, limited the supply, basic economics, demand, not a lot of supply, euthanize. Thank you. Is that the word? That would be the word. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Of course it is. Thank you very much. That's why the egg prices went up as high as they did. And of course, now that there's more eggs in the network, price comes down. That makes perfect sense. So they've been using that because it's the only culling. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you very much. Sam, should have asked the farmer. Thank you, Sam. Appreciate you very much. Of course, that's the only thing they're going to point to is that, because that's all they have. So more of the glaze. Here we go.
And we have to remember they're expensive because we inherited this terrible inflation crisis from the Biden administration. But we've already seen signs that things are getting better. The price of eggs has gone way down. The price of energy has gone way down.
No,
the price of gasoline has gone way down.
No, it hasn't.
And as we know, when the price of energy goes down, that starts to filter out into the entire economy, but that also takes a little bit of time. There's another component of this, Sean, which to me is maybe the most important because I care so much about our young people being able to afford a good life.
I'm sorry, did you say you care so much about our young people being able to afford a good life? Okay.
The young people are saying housing is way too expensive. Why is that? Because we flooded the country.
So let's talk about that before you spew your fucking lies. One of the reasons that our housing costs are so high is because during the first Trump administration, they deregulated the industry so much so that it allowed multinational organizations like BlackRock and Vanguard to come in and buy houses. And do you think they're going to put those houses back on the market? No, they kept them and then rented them out and then drove up everybody else's costs, which then drove up everybody's mortgage or the housing costs in general. It's all part of the same fucking plan. Who benefits? The rich do. Who gets fucked? We do. So we can draw straight lines to this bullshit. We have a housing crisis in our country. No doubt about it. We have a massive housing crisis in our country. And because conservatives are so fucking freaked out by communism, they can't look at a democratic socialist policy about freezing rents. Friends, I proved it. By the way, I have two things I want to say. And I want to thank RJ. I think I saw him in earlier because I asked him a question. I was listening to his live yesterday, and I asked him to ask a question of somebody on his panel. But let me go back a second. People on the right think rent freeze means that landlords don't get paid. That's how dumb they are. They're so afraid of socialist policies that might actually work that they're trying to convince themselves that it means that landlords don't get paid. And then I saw somebody who did not know anything about inflation. I shit you not, this conversation happened. This person was talking about prices, was talking about, inflation's high, this and that. And I said, RJ, can you be solid and just ask this guy, if the inflation rate is 3% this month, then it goes to 2.5% next month, does that mean your prices go down? I shit you not, the guy said yes. That's how desperately we need to invest in education. I shit you not, that actually happened. RJ can confirm. That's not how it works. 3% inflation rate, prices go up, that rate, 3%, 2.5, doesn't mean they go down. It just means they go up at 2.5% and not 3%. I shit you not, that fucking happened.
Inflation crisis from the Biden administration, but you've already seen signs that things are getting better. The price of eggs has gone way down. The price of energy has gone way down. The price of gasoline has gone way down. And as we know, when the price of energy goes down, that starts to filter out into the entire economy, but that also takes a little bit of time. There's another component of this, Sean, which to me is maybe the most important because I care so much about our young people being able to afford a good life. A lot of young people are saying housing is way too expensive. Why is that? Because we flooded the country with 30 million illegal immigrants who are taking houses that ought by right go to American citizens. And
so let's think about this for a second, okay? Let's think about this for a second. So the argument, first of all, 30 million, that number just changes all the time. The estimates are that it's between 9 and 11 million people. That's the number. The argument that they're trying to make, we have a housing crisis in our country. Housing is not affordable. J.D. Vance starts the conversation. I think you guys know where I'm going with this. They say that the housing is not affordable. We would all agree. So an undocumented immigrant, actually, I don't even like the term. Everybody's documented. It's a different, anyway. Immigrants who are working in many, many cases, hospitality jobs, working in construction, working in food service, they're the ones that are buying homes that Americans can't afford? Make it make fucking sense. Just make it make sense. They have no fucking argument. Exactly what is that? An immigrant working at a job or minimum wage is going to go purchase a $450,000 home? They're so dumb. They're dumb.
And at the same time, we weren't building enough new houses to begin with, even for the population that we had. So what we're doing is trying to make it easier to build houses, trying to make it easier to build factories. And
you're not. Show me one piece of legislation where you're talking about building houses. And like we said yesterday, objectively speaking, if there was a policy that I could look to from the Republican Party that says, this is how we want to lower costs. These are the things that we want to do. We're going to invest in land, and we're going to build a series of affordable houses. Thank you. That's not legislation, JD. That's just fucking talk.
Things like that so that people have good jobs. We're also getting all of those illegal aliens out of our country, and you're already seeing it start to pay some dividends.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
No, it's not paying dividends at all. As a matter of fact, no dividends. Stop fucking lying. Good morning, Ben.
How you doing, Steve? I am so glad you found that podcast. I was the one that turned you on to that.
I appreciate that, Ben. Thank you, man. Thank you very much for that.
I knew you could get the word out much better than I can because, you know, you got way more viewers than I can get. But I appreciate you and love you, man. You do the work that many can't, and just stay strong. And I kind of want to bring up a couple points. These MAGAs are always, why didn't Biden release these files? But they fail to realize that Maxwell was going through her appeals and couldn't release these files until, what was it, December of 2024 it was finally settled?
No, I think it was ultimately the appeal. I think it happened I want to say January 2024 is when things came out officially, and that's when the case ended. I could be wrong about that. Don't quote me. But we did get information during the Biden administration. September. It might have been September. We did get information during the Biden administration.
It was late in the year. And, you know, they're not going to politicize it like Trump likes to. And, you know, the same scenario with these eggs going down was the same. You know, these idiots, they've had their best times in their life during the C-19 because they were laid off and getting an extra $600 a week. You know, they were making more money than they've ever made because of that. And prices was down to under $2 a gallon because of the pandemic. You know, I mean, it's just supply and demand. It's all the same thing. And if things are going down, why is my coffee doubled?
Yeah, seriously. My don't even listen. I worked in the coffee industry for 10 years. One thing I learned is you do not want to put anybody between you and your coffee. Meaning, like, if the coffee, that's good. That turns ugly really quickly.
Just like me, you know, unfortunately, I'm a smoker, but, you know, I'm a heavy smoker. I got to get chew to be at work to protect my coworkers. Same scenario.
I got you.
You know what I mean? I don't like
I got
it.
you, buddy. Yeah.
But I
get it.
appreciate you, Steve. I knew you'd get that out there, and I told you it's worse than we expect, and I really appreciate it. All right,
Thank you, buddy.
and I don't want to take
appreciate
up
you,
any
man.
more of your time. Have a good day.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you very much. See you later. Oh, I got you. It's true. I went to this coffee summit in LA about 12 years ago, and this maybe longer than that. And the speaker was great, and all the research. The one thing we could all agree on is you don't want to put anything in between consumer and their cup of coffee, because it's so true. I don't know where the hell I would be. I've been known to, like, if I didn't have coffee in the house, I've been known to try to find the grounds and use them again. I'm just saying. Okay, so where was I here? What is that? Okay. So this is a bit breaking news here. Mods, kick me in the shin if I'm not going the right direction with this statement from the Bureau of Prisons. The release to the media by Congressman Raskin, Democrat from Maryland, of Ms. Maxwell's privileged client-attorney email correspondence with me is as improper as it is denial of justice. Congressman Raskin is a ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, an attorney and law professor. He must be aware that his conduct undermines the whole legal process. His action should be a matter for professional disciplinary action. Let me give you context on this. So, employees at Maxwell's prison have been fired for leaking attorney-client emails. Jesus. There have been appropriate consequences already for employees at federal prison Camp Bryan. They have been terminated for improper, unauthorized access to the email system used by Federal Bureau of Prisons to allow inmates to communicate with the outside world. The provision of those emails to a federal official who then caused them to be shared with the media is a breach of constitutional protections, including the First, Sixth, and 14th Amendment afforded to all prisoners. Funny how they suddenly care about the First, Fourth, and 6th and 14th Amendment? Nice. Dressing the improper action up as whistleblower information does not mitigate the fact that the mails were both illegally obtained and put to unconstitutional purpose. It is clear that no effort to fact-check the credibility or veracity of the so-called whistleblower was made by the representative or by his offices. For Rep. Raskin to seek to make political capital from such a publication and from the content of personal emails between Ms. Maxwell and a family member is both shocking and reprehensible. Regrettably, this is just the latest example of Ms. Maxwell's constitutional and human rights being ridden roughshod over. This began in July of 2020 with her 2 years of torturous and this began in July 2020 with her 2 years of torturous incarceration in solitary isolation and on suicide watch at the infamous MDC Brooklyn, followed by more than 3 years at the FCI Tallahassee institution that the DOJ-owned Inspector General on independent investigation found to be filled with black mold, inmate food contaminated with rodent droppings, and infested insects. Sounds like alligator Alcatraz to me. Ms. Maxwell will shortly be filing a habeas corpus petition with the federal district court in SDNY. Habeas petitioners are distinct from petitions to the Supreme Court in that they relate to prisoners' rights and conviction challenges. Contrary to Rep. Raskin's assertion, Ms. Maxwell has not requested a commutation or made a pardon application to the second Trump administration. Prior to any such application, a prisoner needs to demonstrate that all possible avenues of appeal have been exhausted. And they have been, because the Supreme Court just denied her plea. In Ms. Maxwell's case, her habeas petition provides the court with material evidence not available at her trial in November, December 2021. In the 4 years since the verdict, new evidence has indeed come to light, and it's continuing to do so. The habeas petition demonstrates that had this evidence been available, it would have had a material impact on the trial's outcome. It also demonstrates unequivocally that significant government and juror misconduct occurred during and post-trial, making the verdict at the very least unsafe. It shows that Ms. Maxwell has every right to expect rapid and meaningful relief from the court, thus potentially obviating the need for any further action related to her imprisonment. You guys know what this is, right? You know what this is. This is an attempt to say that she was tried illegally, or that her jury or the jury pool was tainted, or it was weaponization, or it was a witch hunt to attempt to justify commutation. Exactly. Fucking unbelievable. Okay, so AD, this is the letter. All right. All right. So this is the letter that triggered this whole thing. What time is it? Okay, we've got plenty of time here. Everybody keep tapping and sharing, please. Whistleblower shares evidence that federal prison camp warden is pampering Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell also following a commutation application with the Trump administration. This was dated November 10th. So what I just read to you was in response to this. Raskin demands answers from President Trump on any potential Maxwell clemency, presses for Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche to come before committee and testify about apparent Maxwell quid pro quo. Washington, D.C., dated November the 10th. Rep. Jamie Raskin, ranking member of the House Judiciary, sent a letter to President Trump demanding that he answer inquiries from the committee and make Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche available for a public hearing in light of documents and information received by the committee showing that under Dr. Tanisha Hall, the warden of federal prison camp FPC Bryan, the federal law enforcement staff working at the camp have been waiting on Ms. Maxwell hand and foot. Whistleblower information provided to the committee also indicates that Ghislaine Maxwell is working on filing a commutation application with the Trump administration, demonstrating either that Ms. Maxwell is herself requesting to be released from her 20-year prison sentence for her role as co-conspirator in JE's international child sex trafficking ring, or that this child sex predator now holds such tremendous sway in the second Trump administration that Trump and his own DOJ will allow her clemency recommendation to continue. Oh my God. Let's remember that what she was found guilty of, friends. Conspiracy to trafficking, participation. She was part of this. She was the linchpin in this entire thing. And they're now angry that it was exposed that she gets puppy playtime and yoga and special treatment. In October, Judiciary Democrats fired off a letter to FPC Bryan warden Dr. Tanisha Hall after her public reports indicated that Epstein co-conspirator has received special treatment since her transfer. The subsequent whistleblower disclosure received by Judiciary Democrats shows that Warden Hall has been heaping favorable treatment to Ms. Maxwell since her arrival. For instance, Ms. Maxwell's meals have been customized and prepared by federal prison camp staff and then personally delivered to her cell by longtime federal employees. When Ms. Maxwell wanted to arrange a private meeting with visitors, including members of her family, the warden personally arranged it for her and then provided a special cordoned-off area for visitors to arrive, as well as an assortment of snacks and refreshments for her guests. Ms. Maxwell's guests were permitted to bring computers, an unprecedented action by the warden given the security risk and potential for Ms. Maxwell to use a computer to conduct unmonitored communications with the outside world. When the phone lines went down for other inmates at camp, Ms. Maxwell provided specific instructions about exactly which BOP personnel her contact should call and how those BOP personnel would then connect to relay the calls to Ms. Maxwell. When Ms. Maxwell wanted to review and edit documents quickly, she essentially used Warden Hall as her personal secretary and administrative assistant. Ms. Maxwell's correspondents would email documents directly to the warden, who would then provide them to Ms. Maxwell, who would then review them, edit them, and provide them back to the warden to scan and provide the original sender. For other inmates, simple mail can take weeks to arrive and is frequently lost. An inmate who trains puppies to become service dogs, was instructed to provide one to Maxwell for a time so she could play with the puppy, even though neither inmates nor staff are ordinarily allowed to pet the service dogs in training. And when Miss Maxwell wanted to go to the prison exercise area, she was personally escorted there after hours by prison guards so she could work out by herself and was allowed to enjoy recreation time in staff-only areas. Yeah, nothing to see here, though. Nothing to see. But her attorney is upset that this information got out. Let's be clear about that. Okay? We see you. We fucking see you. Speaking of Todd Blanche, Deputy AG Todd Blanche, again, who used to be Donald Trump's personal attorney, who represented him many, many times, right? Let me bring up Tootle real quick, and then we'll get back to it. Holy shit. Hey, man, how are you?
The shit is holy.
This is how bad this is, man. This is how bad this shit is.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. There's just so much to talk about. It's crazy. But you were just about to say Todd Blanche, his former attorney.
Yeah.
Him and Ghislaine's attorney are personal friends.
I know.
That's ridiculous.
I know. I know.
But
Yep.
Just distract from everything. And doesn't Raskin as a congressional member have oversight of any federal facility?
Yeah, in theory, that's Congress's job before Mike Johnson abdicated those responsibilities under Article 1 of the Constitution.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
They had congressional members were trying to go to the ICE facility in New Jersey and, were turned away, but they have all the full legal right to be there. So doesn't Raskin have the full legal right to ask for these things?
He should. You've got an echo.
Oh, no. How about now? Any better?
Better, yes.
Yeah, it's my stupid stand. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Oh, but wow.
Yeah, I know.
Bubba, I don't even know what to think about that.
Blowing Bubba should be a new t-shirt.
Oh my God, there's going to be so many Hubba Bubba.
Hubba Bubba. I asked yesterday, is Trump a spitter or a swallower, do we think? Either way, but I'm just wondering, and I wonder how his gag reflex is. I'm just curious. Asking for a friend.
Oh, geez. I just think that, I know we were talking about JD just a moment ago, about the president in the Oval. And that was on Veterans Day, I think.
It was.
It was disgusting. And he's just throwing out cultural racism.
Yeah, totally. No, I mean, just again, a former Al-Qaeda leader who has said numerous anti-American things and who knows what he was involved in, was in the Oval Office on Veterans Day.
Very similar to what Trump did with when he negotiated with the Taliban on the Afghanistan pullout. He did that on July 4th.
July 4th, exactly. Yeah, and then wanted them to go to Camp David for just a little sit down.
Yeah.
He
is definitely the enemy of the state.
He is indeed.
Really,
He's indeed.
And of course, JD was throwing out the trope of it's the migrants that are taking our housing.
Of course.
And Bovino was on Fox yesterday, and he said the racist part out loud too. Of course, he's talking about we got to get the criminals out, et cetera, et cetera. But then right after that, he said they're taking American jobs.
Of course. That's their whole game. I got to get back to it, Tootle. Thanks for
coming
in today,
man.
buddy. I appreciate
you. Keep it up. Great show. I'll just sit here and be stunned.
I appreciate you, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Have a good one.
You too. Yeah, it's the same old script, right? It's the same old script. It's the America First movement. Can you guys imagine for a second? I feel like I might set somebody up this weekend in a MAGA Live. Hey, MAGA, did you guys hear that story they just broke about how Barack Obama had invited an Al-Qaeda leader to the White House and they met in the Oval Office? Watch their heads explode and be like, oh no, I'm sorry. I'm mistaken. That happened on Tuesday, on Veterans Day. Your boy did that. Watch their fucking heads explode. That'd be mean. Anyway, so back to the Todd Blanche story. Deputy AG Todd Blanche seemed to acknowledge on Thursday that thousands of recently released email exchanges from disgraced sexual predator Epstein contradict the information that Epstein's accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell gave during the interviews this summer. You think? You think, Todd? When Blanche first spoke to Maxwell, she told him that she had never seen Trump at Epstein's house and the two were just casual friends. Todd, I think Trump and Epstein were friendly like people are in social settings. I don't think they were close friends, or I certainly never witnessed the president in any, or I don't recall ever seeing him in Epstein's house, for instance, Maxwell said, according to the interview transcripts. I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in any appropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. And remember, MAGA jumped on that. They did. So the only woman that MAGA would choose to believe would be the convicted sexual predator. Got it. Got it. The emails that she sent in 2011 tell a very different story now, don't they? I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Spent hours, this was an email. This was an email between Jeff and Ghislaine. Spent hours with him at my house. Why did Todd Blanche not know that? Why did he not probe further? Why did he not question that more? To which Ghislaine Maxwell responds, I've been thinking about that. Which means she obviously fucking knew. She was there. Maxwell responded, while Maxwell's email doesn't directly contradict her assertion that she never saw the president at Epstein's house, they certainly suggest she knew that he spent time there. I mean, come on. Come on. Todd. Todd. That doesn't look good for you, buddy. An important side note about today's Epstein-Trump revelations, they show that Todd Blanche's questioning of Ghislaine Maxwell was either A, completely incompetent, or B, intentionally crafted not to elicit facts that would incriminate Trump. George Conway wrote that on X. George, you've never been confused for a trial lawyer, and these kinds of posts explain why. When I interviewed Maxwell, law enforcement didn't have the materials Epstein's estate hid for years and only just provided Congress, Blanche responded, not seeming to deny that these emails suggest Maxwell misled him. Stop taking it. It's unbecoming. Dude, what? So now you're going to go after somebody who's questioning your jurisprudence? Is that the right word? Probably. Quote, Todd Blanche would have had these emails before interviewing Maxwell. Why didn't he question her directly about her exchange? Why did he not follow up when she said things that were obviously a lie? Former FBI lawyer Aisha Rangpay mused. This shows that this was a performance intended to dupe the public to her benefit. I mean, every time, guys, this is why I keep trying to tell you, and thank you for hanging in there today. I know this is tough, but this is why I try to tell you that this is so much bigger than just the horrible crimes against kids. That's obviously bad enough. This is so much bigger. This is just at every turn. There's more and more and more and more and more and more corruption. More and more of it at every turn. Which brings me to where I kind of wanted to go when the show started today. I have always thought that the 25th Amendment's in play. So what I kind of wanted to do, well, let me back up a second. I want to just kind of close the loop on the timeline because of the lies that Trump has said, and then we'll stick a fork in that for the day, and then we'll move on to a couple other things, including Lindsey Graham's in trouble. One of the things that Trump has gone on the record saying quite regularly is that I haven't talked to JE in 15 years. So that time frame is 2004 which was the whole debate about yesterday we talked about Mar-a-Lago. The claims about Mar-a-Lago all along has been, I kicked him out because he was stealing my employees. We know one of those employees was Virginia. We know one of her we know at the time that she was 16 years old. So the first question is, why was there a 16-year-old person working in your spa? That's one. So that's been your argument, to which Caroline Leavitt dunked on that yesterday because she said you kicked him out because he was a pedophile and a creep, her words. So those are the contradictions there. But this part of this story is the lies that he's told about no contact for 15 years. A 2011 email, dog that hasn't barked is Trump, spent hours at my house with him. So that's the first contradiction, because 2004 is earlier than 2011, which means the 15 years, haven't spoken to him in 15 years, is a lie. I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. He spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. First lie. That email is from 2011, roughly 7 years after Trump's claimed early 2000s falling out. Epstein is talking about Trump in the present, referring to a victim spending hours at his house. I don't think we even need to go any further than that. Okay? We don't have to go any further than that. In 2015, an email about prepping Trump's answer on Epstein. In another newly released email chain, author Michael Wolff tells Epstein that CNN might ask Trump in a 2015 primary debate about his relationship with Epstein, who responded by asking what Trump should answer should be. He responded by asking what Trump's answer should be. Wolff suggests letting Trump hang himself if he lies, because Epstein would then have valuable PR and political currency. What this suggests is he clearly believed he had leverage over Trump based on past contact, and that Trump might be tempted to misrepresent their story. Epstein and Wolff are openly gaming out how Trump will talk about Epstein as he enters the presidential politics, implying that their relationship and shared history were active considerations in 2015, not some ancient dead connection. And again, doesn't prove face-to-face, it just proves that they've been speaking. 2019, email. Of course he knew about the girls. One of the new emails, dated January 31st, 2019, has Epstein writing to Wolff. He disputes Trump's story about asking him to resign from Mar-a-Lago, saying he never was there. Epstein saying, I was never a member. Then adds, of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Of course he knew. Of course he knew about Ghislaine, because he asked her to stop. Of course. This speaks more to Trump's knowledge of E's behavior than to physical meetings, but it reinforces that Epstein did see Trump actively involved enough to ask Maxwell to stop sending him girls. That is flatly at odds with Trump's repeated claim that he knew nothing about Epstein's conduct and had long severed ties. So, do we need any more on that? Do we need any more on that? That there was no contact for 15 years? That's just not true. Then there's the whole Thanksgiving, the whole Thanksgiving thing. Also, House Oversight Committee shared a November 23rd, 2017 email chain between E! and model agency founder Faith Cates. Both the New Republic and Newsweek describe it the same way. Cates asks Epstein, where are you having Thanksgiving? Epstein replies, Eva, or Eva, understood to mean Eva Anderson Dubin's house, his former girlfriend, now married to billionaire Glenn Dubin. Kate replies that Glenn must be there. She then asks, who else is down there? Epstein answers, David Fizzle, Hansen, and Trump. So, again, do we need any more? I could keep going because there's like 7 or other instances. You can't say you haven't had contact in 15 years and then have a half dozen examples when you absolutely did. Okay. I need some water. How dare you guys put a package of soft Chips Ahoy cookies on the counter? How dare you put that there? All right. I want to shift gears now and go to my whole 25th Amendment theory. All right. Let's talk about what it is. I've alluded to it before, but I probably haven't done a good enough job explaining it to you. Okay. Those were yours. I'm sorry. I know. I'll blame it on Kipper's eyeing it. He's like, dude, give me that. You can't have that. Oh, by the way, so our daughter took a walk last night with Kipper, as she's wont to do, and she was walking towards a little store down the street. It's just like a half a mile away. It's lighted. It's not like it's dark. She was walking with him, and she mentioned to me when she came back that there was this weird person that crossed the street towards her. Normally, when Kipper's out with people, he's like a typical golden retriever. Like, I love everybody. I love everybody. Not this time. She described that he got in front of her and was growling at this dude and was barking at this dude and would not leave her side. And she said she'd never seen him like that before. So, good boy. Good boy. Yes, good boy. Anyway, okay. Invoking the 25th Amendment, specifically Section 4. You're right, dogs know, exactly. The part that people refer to when discussing removing a president who is unable to discharge the powers and duties of the office requires a very specific constitutional process. This is it. Vice President and a majority of the cabinet. The Vice President and a majority of the cabinet, principal officers of the executive departments, cabinet secretaries, must sign a written declaration that the president is unable to perform the duties of the office. The declaration is sent to the president of the Senate, which in this case would be the vice president, but in this case they're signing it, and the Speaker of the House. So the vice president and would be 8. Is that right? Yeah, it'd be 8 cabinet members, be one more than half, a majority. Okay? So they make this declaration that the president is unable to fulfill their duties of the office. And in this case, since the vice president would be the one authoring it, it would go to the Speaker of the House. Once it's delivered, the vice president becomes acting president immediately. What happens next? After the cabinet invokes Section 4, the president may dispute the declaration. If the president contests it, the president sends a written declaration saying he's able to carry out the duties. He regains power immediately unless the VP candidate redeclare inability within 4 days. If they disagree with the president's rebuttal, they send another declaration within 4 days. So, process starts. The vice president initiates the 25th Amendment, needs 8 members of the cabinet to sign on. They deliver that. It could be under the cover of darkness. They deliver that to the Speaker of the House. When that happens, the vice president becomes the president. The president then has a chance to respond by writing a declaration saying that he or she is able to carry out the duties, and then he regains power unless the VP and the cabinet redeclare his inability to serve within 4 days. Congress must then decide. Congress must assemble within 48 hours, if not already, in session, and has 21 days to vote to keep the president removed. 2/3 of both the House and the Senate must vote the president is unable to discharge their duties. If Congress fails to reach 2/3, the president resumes power. Remember we talked earlier when we started the show that 290 was a big deal? Yeah, that'd be 2/3 in the House. So 67 in the Senate. So math comes into play here. That's why this vote, to me, that we're going to get next week will be very telling. Very telling. You're going to see, listen, nothing would surprise me at this point. I just want to check on something real quick. Yes, big, beautiful bill. Hold me, it does. You can't have the cookie, buddy. Sorry. Thank you, Jess. Before I finish this piece, I want to just play this sound real quick. This was Bannon. Remember we were talking earlier about what's going down? Here's Steve Bannon.
As God is my witness, if we lose the midterms and we lose 2028, some in this room are going to prison, myself included. They're not going to stop. They are getting more and more and more radical. And we have to counter that. And what do we have to counter it with? We have to counter it with more action, more intense action, more urgency. We're burning daylight. If you look across every aspect of this, we have to codify what President Trump has done by executive order, right? We have to codify it.
Listen, I know that this is like a don't tell me with a good time moment, but this is how it started.
It's God is my witness. If we lose the midterms and we lose 2028, some in this room are going to prison.
Myself included. Yeah. Why would you say something like that if you didn't know that you were committing fucking crimes? Thank you, Jess, for finding that for us. Okay. So the reason that I bring up the 2/3 piece is because that's going to be what's required. It's not easy to remove a president under the 25th Amendment. Similarly, under the Constitution, under impeachment. Remember, impeachment articles get filed in the House, and although MAGA will never believe this, Donald Trump is a twice impeached president. Bill Clinton was impeached, not removed. Two separate levers. One impeach, the other remove. Now, if there had been any Republicans who had any fucking spine back in 2020, we wouldn't be dealing with this shit. Would have been over. This American nightmare would be over. But no, they couldn't do that. So if the 25th gets invoked, I shouldn't say if, when, hello, buddy. I can't give him a cookie because it's chocolate chip. You're dreaming his cabinet is full of sycophants. Sorry. Again, I understand, but there's criminality connected to these kinds of things. So follow my logic, right? Follow my logic. Follow my logic for a second. If it gets this far and the vice president introduces the idea of Article 25, you get cabinet members. Then there's a negotiation that happens. The president says, I'll resign. You grant me a pardon. Members of the cabinet say the exact same thing. I'll support this if I can get a pardon. I think that's what will happen. I agree. He does too. I would not be surprised if that's how far they go. Okay? So I don't know where it's going to lead or how far it's going to go, but I can tell you this. No one wants to be connected to this third rail. If you know metro travel, no one does. No one wants to be connected to a predator. No one wants to be linked to anything having to do with someone who's being protected by his own government to avoid the truth coming out about the fact that he's a fucking pedophile. Period. So they're going to be many of them are going to be willing to do more than they would have ever thought they would be willing to do. That's how bad this is. You might say they don't care, but if you're facing criminality, if you're facing going to jail because of all this kind of stuff, and then all of their corruption that's connected to it, Trump has been their savior. He's been their protector. He's the one who ultimately controls the Department of Justice. So, of course, none of those crimes are going to be investigated. All the corruption, all the bribery, everything connected to it, all the money laundering that's going on by cabinet members, those are fucking crimes. Okay? We can't normalize this shit. Those are crimes. So, side room deals. Listen, we got to get this guy out of here because we can't be touched. We cannot touch this shit. I will grant all of you pardons if you agree to do this right now. They do it. They get a pardon. They get away with their crimes. That's how bad this is. They'll get away with their crimes. Trump's no longer the president. I don't know if that's where it's going to go. Again, just my opinion. That's all it is. It's just my opinion. We'll see. That's is that the word? Is that the flow? There's been times in Trump's past where these conversations have been considered. After January 6th, several cabinet officials quietly discussed invoking the 25th. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos directly asked Vice President Mike Pence to consider it. Pence refused, saying the 25th was not meant as a punishment. If you're unable to discharge your duties, there's no real definition as to what that might mean. If you're a predator, if you're a pedophile, you're not able to discharge your duties. in my opinion. After Trump's hospitalization with COVID in 2020, some members of the National Security Council privately discussed contingency plans if Trump's condition worsened. After erratic actions in 2017, Deputy AG Rob Rosenstein reportedly discussed using the 25th, though Rosenstein denied seriously proposing it. It's been used a few times. Ronald Reagan, 1987. Richard Nixon, 1974. So these conversations have happened in the past. I'm just thinking that this has gotten to the point now where he's literally protecting a predator, or his cabinet, his administration, because they all know. They all know. Everybody that's around the table. Remember that whole fucking Glaze Fest right after he got sick? How they just sat around the table and just worshipped him. You're the greatest thing ever. You're the best at this. You're the best at that. You're the best at hockey. You're the best at tiddlywinks. Tell him anything you wanted to hear to make him feel better, because they know. They know that he's in failing health. They know that he's a fucking predator. They know. They can't run from it. They know it. They all fucking know. And they're all doing everything they can to protect them. They're going to need a way out. And the way out is a presidential pardon. That's it. Or they're going to go to jail. Because I can tell you right now, when the Democrats win the House in 2026, and we're going to talk about how the whole situation in Texas is blown up in their face. When they win the House in 2026, people are going to get investigated, and they're not going to have the protection. They're going to get investigated. They're going to get charged with crimes, and they're going to get investigated. And they're going to haul Pam Bondi in hearings. They're going to ask her to expose everything. And Kristi Noem's going to have to put on her My Day in Congress cosplay costume and go answer questions. And Kash Patel will have to attempt to look in a straight line. They're in trouble, and they know it. And now what are they doing? They're trying to cover again. They're trying to cover for a fucking predator. It's crazy. So we'll see. So the last thing I wanted to kind of get into today, well, not the last thing, but I think this story's great. So you guys remember when the whole, again, think about this. In an attempt to, again, avoid being held accountable for your crimes, because the Republican Party cannot win elections on policy, they have to cheat, right? So that's where the whole redistricting thing started, the whole thing. So Donald Trump decided, I'm going to contact my buddy, Hot Wheels in Texas. I'm going to say, Hot Wheels, I need you to find me 5 seats. And he did. And they violated their own laws, and they rewrote the book, and they didn't give any voter a chance to weigh in, okay? So, in case anyone wonders if there's any point in taking a stand only to be forced to capitulate down the road, I would invite you to consider an episode from this past summer. Republicans, members of the Texas legislature, passed a bill. This is reported by Salon. Passed a bill to redraw the state's congressional maps and give the GOP 5 additional seats in the House. At the behest of Donald Trump, Democratic lawmakers fled the state to deny the GOP a quorum and delay the vote. They were threatened with arrest, handed massive fines, but in the end, they returned. The GOP not only passed the legislation, but they also exacted retribution against the Democrats. Was it worth it? They would say absolutely yes, without hesitation. Although the Texas Democrats didn't succeed in stopping the Republicans, their doomed strategy achieved something just as important. It brought national attention to the Machiavellian tactics the GOP was employing to maintain its congressional majority, and that has resulted in a state-by-state battle that just may end up backfiring on Republicans. As Trump and Republicans were celebrating their great win last summer, California Governor Newsom, Democrat, began testing the ground to see how his state might do the same to offset what Texas actions had done. According to Politico, Newsom's proposal was first conceived as a bluff to try to dissuade legislators in the Lone Star State from going through with their plan. But once it was fait accompli, Newsom's administration immediately started looking at how California voters would receive the plan, and it wasn't good. The first internal polling 4 months ago showed that only 38% of Californians supported it. Okay? California has an independent redistricting committee, which I would support in every state. I don't think any legislature, Democrat is majority, Republican majority, should be drawing these lines, because they will gerrymander, no doubt about it. So I think it should be a law that every state has an independent commission that they draw their congressional maps, period. Solve that problem, make it a law, move on. Like the Texas Democrats, Newsom decided to go ahead and call a special election and then set out to sell the idea. On November the 4th, after 4 months of elevating the issue, Prop 50 passed with nearly 65% of California voters voting in favor. The risk paid off. California's new map will effectively cancel out the 5 seats Texas added, and instead of being engineered in a back room, it was done with the explicit approval of Californians. Last weekend, Newsom traveled to Texas to give credit where it's due. In thanking the state's Democrats for what they did, he said, "You woke us up. You didn't just have your back here, you had our back in the state of California." Other states are now following their lead. Just before the election, Virginia Democrats signaled that they were ready to redraw the Commonwealth's congressional map, and after they decimated the GOP in the November 4th election, they will soon be in a position to begin. Illinois and Maryland could soon do the same. Republican-led states have been expected to immediately follow Texas's lead, but it's been a rockier road than they had hoped. Ohio drew a map the Democrats believe actually could favor them after seeing their recent election results. Kansas decided to not follow through on their map. Missouri faces a statewide referendum on a map giving 1 new seat to Republicans. Despite massive pressure from the White House, including personal visits from J.D. Vance, Indiana Republicans are resisting pressure to draw their new districts. In Utah on Monday, a judge rejected the state's all-GOP map, stating that it unduly favors Republicans and disfavors Democrats. And that ruling, the state constitution requires an alternate proposal, means that they created a Democratic-leaning district in Utah. North Carolina gerrymander has been the only one that's given the Republicans an additional seat. According to NBC News, some Republicans are now getting nervous about the administration's redistricting strategy. But Trump, who believes it to be a magic bullet, remains fully on board. A strategist explained, "The president understands intuitively, in a way that other Republicans don't, that Democrats are always assaulting us. Always, and mostly much of the Republican Party never fights back. The redistricting fight is proof that they are not that way. So this is in his DNA in a way that is not in other Republicans' DNA. Daddy then knows best, but he may be in for a surprise." Dave Wasserman, an electoral expert for the nonpartisan Cook Political Report with Amy Walter, noted on X that between Ohio, Kansas, California, Virginia, and now this one in Utah, Democrats have quietly strung together an impressive streak of victories over the past few weeks that have surprisingly pushed the mid-decade redistricting war closer to a draw. Can you imagine that? So think about this, right? The expectation were that, because it's always about the economy, it's always about, the economy, and in this case, it's going to be ICE, and it's going to be the corruption, it's going to be the Epstein files, the whole 9 yards. It was already, all things being equal, the Democrats are going to pick up 15 to 20 seats. That's probably a conservative estimate. The Republicans, aware of this, tried this gerrymandering effort that blew up in their faces. So now everything is even on the board, so we're back to square one again. And the voters are like, what the fuck are you doing? And then we get the reporting from all these independents. Independents are like, I'm done with this shit. Independents are the ones that decide elections, friends. They're the ones. They're the ones that decide elections. They're the ones that determine elections. And independents are done with this administration. They are done. So people talk about, MAGA likes to point to the fact that it's just Virginia, it's just New Jersey, just New York City. They're all blue. It's the margins, though. Flipping 12 or 13 delegate seats. Congratulations again, Jess. Flipping 13, 14 delegate seats in Virginia, picking up 2 wins in Georgia in that special election for the Public Service Board seats that hadn't gone Democrat in 20 fucking years, getting rid of Mississippi's supermajority, state houses across the country, Supreme Court justice seats. It's not looking good, which is why they're doing all this bullshit. Don't let them. Stay engaged. Turn out to vote. We'll be good. We'll be good. As long as you do something, right? That's the goal. Okay, the box is open. If anybody wants to come up and talk about anything, we'll use the last half hour for Free Speech Friday if anything's on your mind. Heather, I think you timed out. Oh, there you are.
Oh, I'm right here.
Okay. What's on your mind?
I was going to read you Trump's 1030 Truth Social post that has to do with E files, whatever.
I think I might have read it, unless it's a new one.
It popped up. Let me get it here. It says, now that Democrats are using the Epstein hoax involving Democrats, not Republicans, to try and deflect from their disastrous shutdown, in all caps, and all of the other failures, I will be asking AG Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice, together with our great patriots at the FBI, to investigate JE's involvement and relationship with Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, JP Morgan Chase, and many others. This is another Russia scam.
Oh,
all
my
arrows
God.
pointing to the Democrats show that these men and many others spent large portions of their life with Epstein and on his island. Stay tuned.
Boy, they are scrambling. Holy shit, they are scrambling. And then there's another post that he posted right after that. Cost and inflation were far higher under Sleepy Joe Biden than they are now. In fact, costs under the Trump administration are tumbling down, helped greatly by gasoline and energy. Affordability is a lie when used by the Dems. It's a complete con job. Thanksgiving costs are 25% lower this year than last. Under Crooked Joe, we're the party of affordability. Wow. We talked about this before. The 25% reduction in cost of Thanksgiving is because there's a hell of a lot less in the package. Yeah. So actually, you're paying more per item this year than you did last year. So, but thanks for that tip, Heather. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
as
no
always.
problem.
See you later.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
They're so desperate. Oh my God. They are so freaking desperate. Holy shit. That's wild. We got you. You're caught. Hi, Tina. How are you today?
Steve, I am backing out and trying to park.
Okay. I can do that.
Okay. I should come back on here now.
Yeah, gotcha. What's up?
Steve, has anybody talked about what's going on in Kansas?
What's going on in Kansas?
Between the governor and the, has it disconnected from my car yet?
I can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay. Between the governor and the AG.
No, don't know about that.
The governor is suing the AG for stuff on Snap and for other things that he's trying to do to go along with Trump.
I don't know anything about it. I can't speak to it, Dean. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's on the Kansas website about it. And see, our governor is Democrat and our AG is Republican. And there has been major fights between her and there for that. You might want to check in to see what's going in with Kansas between them, because Governor Civilis is really fighting against Trump right now.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look into it.
She's been doing a lot of stuff. So I'm surprised nobody's looking into it, because it's major what she's doing. She's even pulled out of some kind of committee thing that she's supposed to be in as a governor, and because of all the stuff that's going on with Trump right now.
Yeah. Not that it's not important, but we're trying to navigate through the federal, the national news. But we'll look into it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
we'll look into it.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Dina. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Just a little, one thing I meant to want to play, because somebody just asked a question that I forgot about this. So you remember that, and we discussed this a little bit yesterday, about how John Thune snuck this bullshit provision into the big ugly fucking bill, right? About Republicans in the Senate being able to sue the Department of Justice to get money back because their phone records were acquired. So this is Lindsey Graham. And I want you guys to feel sorry for Lindsey. Okay. I really, really do. Here's Lindsey complaining.
It's so painful. No one ever does this again. Now, on January the 6th, I was on the floor of the Senate saying, no election's perfect, but I voted to certify the election and we must bring this to an end. 2.5 years later, I can't believe that a special counsel would try to find the phone records of 10 senators whose job it was to decide whether or not to certify the election.
Lindsey.
Who we called, where we called from.
Don't lie.
Without a warrant or any other process. In violation of the contract between the phone company and the Senate, and a statute right on point.
Oh.
So I want to make sure this never happens again. And how do you do that? Make people pay.
Of course.
So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I win or not, but I'm going to pursue through the court system remedies.
Okay, Lindsay, in case so people don't forget, let's just go back in time, shall we? Let's talk about Lindsay. Only because I want to bring it up because Lindsay's been a bad boy. You know, Lindsay might need some new stilettos. I don't know what's going on with Lady G. I'm not going to judge Lady G because, you know, he's got a right to be, unhappy. But let's remind people the events surrounding January 6th and Lindsey Graham. Since he brought it up, we'll close the loop. Shortly after the 2020 election in Georgia, while recounts and audits were underway, Brad Raffensperger says who was the Secretary of State of Georgia, said he received a private call from Lindsey Graham. In that call, Raffensperger claims that Graham asked whether mail-in ballots from counties with higher rates of signature mismatches or non-matching signatures could be discarded. Raffensperger said he felt threatened by the suggestion. He described Graham's questions as whether legally cast mail-in ballots could be tossed out in a way that would benefit the losing side. Lindsey Graham has denied that he asked to throw out legally cast ballots, saying he was merely inquiring about how signature verification works and, quote, how to protect the integrity of mail-in voting. The conversation raised enough concern. The Fulton County DA's office launched investigation into whether the call might have violated Georgia election law or constituted interference. Lindsay, boo, Lady G, sweetie, that's why your phone records were investigated. Your phone wasn't tapped. That's why. Because you did something that is way outside of scope in your advising consent role as a senator. Why is a senator from South Carolina calling a Secretary of State from the state of Georgia? So can I just be very clear with you guys about something, or Lindsay in particular? Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Stop being a little bitch. Seriously. The other thing that I think is really funny, I found this. The call is significant because it suggests a sitting U.S. senator may have reached out to a state election official in a way that potentially sought to alter the outcome of a certified election, or at least to ask about discarding ballots. It raises questions about election interference, undue pressure on state officials, and the boundary between legitimate and wrongdoing. Georgia investigated at the state level. This became a federal issue because of the fact that it involved the federal election. And Jack Smith got your phone records. Lindsay, shut the fuck up. John Thune slid that in there at the last minute. And Mike Johnson has said, this caught us off guard. We're not happy about this. I think I even have the sound of Bitch Boy talking about this. Do I have that sound still? I think I do. Maybe I don't. That's all right. Well, actually, it doesn't matter. So Mike Johnson has basically promised that they're going to try to peel this back because it's fucking bullshit. I mean, come on. I mean, MAGA, are you guys okay with this? Yeah. Why am I asking that stupid? Fine with it. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning. I so appreciate your coverage of everything because it was a day. It's been a lot.
I'm gonna need a nap.
Oh, I always need a nap, so feel that. But you know, I so appreciate the fact that I think connecting the dots is what a lot of what we do here, right? And to circle back to the way we started out today. Believing the victims, and can we just give them the proper investigation, right? And back to the Todd Blanche stuff. Andrew Weissman was on Lawrence last night and made some really salient points about this whole response to, you read the George Conway call out of Blanche, right? I think I felt like he did that. And so Blanche's response was like, you need to stop talking. because I didn't have something to the effect of I didn't have access to the emails. So, shut up, basically. So Andrew Weissman was like, that's kind of a self-own because if you didn't, so we'll just take that at face value. So let's say you didn't. What a shit show of an investigation that wasn't, right? Like you could have subpoenaed them. Like what literally Brad Edwards had to go on Lawrence and Ro Khanna was like, yeah, we'll take them. Thanks. Hey, Todd.
Exactly.
Do your fucking job, number one. And by the way, you got them now. So maybe, I don't know, keep doing your investigation. It's just like speaks to the ridiculous, awful job that they've done in really advocating for the victims in this case. And I think that's really the big, like, overarching what the fuck thing that I take from all that is like, not only do we not believe the women, we're not advocating for them. And that really sucks. And I kind of hate it here for that. But I also love it here because we have each other. So, and on top of that, telling Todd Blanche, the fact that, you're a government representative and you're literally telling a citizen to stop talking. So I guess you're kind of still, Diaper Donnie's personal lawyer then, because that's kind of not what a government representative should say.
Yeah, I mean they talk about blurring the lines. I would say they just erase the lines altogether. Yeah, there's no. I mean, yeah, he was Donald Trump's personal attorney. He represented him in a lot of the cases that he lost, and apparently in the legal circles he used to have a pretty good reputation.
That's what I've heard. Right.
Yeah, this is what happens when you get a sniff of power, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to your point, they can never say that they care about the kids. They can also never say they're really the party of law, like they respect the law.
God, no.
You just gave another example of how we don't understand how the law works, or we just are blatantly going to disregard it for our own gains. So either way, y'all suck.
But everything to them is just a justification. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, I think it's really telling that 47% of Republicans said that it would still vote for Trump, even if there was 4K HD video footage of Trump violating girls. They would still vote for him.
Yeah,
I mean that should tell you everything. That should tell you everything. That's we see it every day. We see it every.
They all need like to buy stock in Auntie Anne's or Wetzel's Pretzels at this point, because just when I think the pretzel twisting can't get any worse, we hear Megyn Kelly doing that bullshit.
Unreal.
Yeah. So everybody go seek therapy, fix your broken brains, because, that's all.
Yeah, agreed. I appreciate you. Thanks for jumping in. Good to see you.
I love you, friend. Good to see you.
Love you too. See you later. All right, bye. Somebody asked a question. I can't do facts after dark tonight, guys. It's been a long week. I am exhausted. I've got a major weekend where I'm going to be in a theater, hanging lights and finishing up with the production. Our show Tech Week starts technically tomorrow, so I can't do it tonight. I appreciate the support for it. We'll try to get back on the schedule for that, but just can't do it tonight. But thank you guys for asking. Appreciate that. Hey, Red. How's it going, man?
Steve. Morning. It's going good. So to Lindsey Graham's point where he mentions that the only way to prevent this is, by enacting some kind of punishment, but the only people being punished is the American people.
Correct. It's us.
By reaching, into our pocket and pulling out our money. I don't know how he's wrapped his tiny little brain around that.
That's a good point. It's a really good point. Yeah, it's us. That's right.
I had an idea for a shirt, Bubba Trump, maybe, little, Forrest Gump kind of, Bubba Trump. I thought of that earlier. But
Bubba Trump's knee pads. Yeah.
One thing I've noticed, I haven't seen any major news organizations reporting on that. I mean, I'm not sure why. I've only seen like small organizations reporting on that. So it does.
It's an interesting theory because when I read it, I'm like, okay, is this satire? Are they joking around? I mean, that's probably why it hasn't gotten talked about more. But it came out in the tranche of emails, so we can talk about it. It's like, what does it mean? It does not. I don't think it necessarily means that Putin has video or pictures of Trump, using their words, of Trump blowing Bubba. I just think it's just interesting that we even have to fucking talk about it. But we're talking about it because it's public news now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's funny, and I do feel like this is going to make MAGA's head explode, because it's going to be real hard for their bigotry to wrap around that idea. And it's been an interesting week, a real interesting week, and thank you for your coverage. It's been really informative, and I really appreciate all you do. But that's all I had.
Thanks, Red. I appreciate that. Thanks for jumping in today. Appreciate you very much. Have a good day.
Yeah,
see you later. Well, you know, he brings up an interesting point, because it's like we've always talked about how we've always known that like racism and homophobia and bigotry has always been, it's always been there. It's just been a little bit just below the surface in many cases. But of course, Trump gave everybody license to be full-blown racist, Nazi, white supremacist, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So now that Trump apparently is blowing Bubba, that's going to give all the closeted MAGA the ability to say, you mean shit, I can blow Bubba too? Sweet. So pride flag sales are going to be booming for the next month. I'm just saying. Okay. I think we're going to wrap there. I am spent. Fellatio Friday. Oh my God! I better stop, because I could go a million. Yes, joy is resistance. What's Bubba? Bubba is the nickname for Bill Clinton. He's always been known as Bubba. So, yeah, Bubba. So that's what it is. Listen, everybody. Go forth and gag. Anyway, thank you all. It's been quite a week. Actually, I got one more guest, and then we'll move on. Hello, Heidi.
Hey, Steve. Sorry, I have no voice.
It's okay.
Thanks for letting me up real quick. I just want to give a shout out to Afton, who's running in Tennessee.
Yes.
We are trying to support her here in Virginia. So I wanted to let your audience know, since you have a nice, big, captive audience, that we will be having her on our Friday Power Lunch show today at 12 p.m., which is a little more than 15 minutes. And anybody interested in checking that out can go to FridayPowerLunch.com and sign up there. It's a Zoom podcast.
Beautiful. Is she on TikTok?
I am not 100% sure. She is for sure on Instagram.
If the conversation comes up and she wants to come and join us some morning between now and her election, I'd love to have her.
All right, cool. I will let her know. I'm about to hop over to the Zoom now. We get in the green room a little bit early to do mic checks and all of that. So
got it.
I will definitely let her know.
I appreciate that, Heidi, and thank you very much. And just remind people again where they can find it. Is there a link in your link tree? Where can they go to watch?
There is a link in my link tree. I believe it's listed under Network Nova, which is the parent group that does it. But if you go to FridayPowerLunch.com, you'll find it there. It will redirect you. It's the easiest to remember.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for jumping in.
And just a side note, we also have, I don't know if anybody knows who Equality Alec is from Twitter. He does a lot of the surveillance stuff on propaganda and everything like that. He will be on there as well, talking about the mass surveillance that our country is experiencing right now.
Everywhere we look, there's something going on. Thank you, Heidi, for jumping in today. I appreciate it.
Have a good
veteran, dad, girl dad, father of a special needs kid, amazing man, incredible human being, does all of our backgrounds for us. And we always talk about things in real time. So, ladies and gentlemen, to end your Friday, I present Bubba Trump's Mushrooms. Now, if you know, you know. So I think we have all earned the right to be able to laugh at this shit. Because I certainly am. Bubba Trump Mushrooms. suck, Trumpy, suck. That's the fucking best. Legend, you are the man. Hearts in the chat. Just the cap. That's right. Just the cap. Ooh, baby, give me your shiitake. Oh, yeah. Oh, Bubba. Hello. Anyway, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. Thank you, Gregory. I appreciate you, buddy. We're going to go raid RTP. Everybody's telling me said hello. I think he's on now because of the time change there. Listen, like I said before, it's been quite a week. A lot to report on. I really appreciate your amazing, the captive audience goes without saying. You guys are great. We do this for you. We do this because it's important to us. We're not going to stop talking about it. Could not do it without the best bonds in the business. And you guys are the smartest chat on TikTok. I love you all very, very much. Please have yourselves a great weekend. Sorry about no facts after dark tonight, but your boy needs a break. I'll see you Monday morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Thank you, friends.